Thomas, I finished that olive oil.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and it looks great.
I
see.
I made
fucking green
toffee this morning. I was up at 3:30 this morning making toffee, and then I left at 4:45 to hit my first hemp farm of the day, and I just rolled in the house like 25 minutes ago.
Damn, bro.
All right.
It's a good day.
All right, guys. We are live. Welcome to another edition of In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio. This week, guys, we're really excited to talk to the one, the only, the Ganj Father, Brian Peace. We can't wait to talk to Brian, hear the story. If you guys don't know about Wing King, if you guys haven't been to Las Vegas, you're missing out. We're going to have one hell of a show for you guys. Cannabis Chef, one of the best restaurants in Las Vegas, right?
We were voted top 20 wing restaurants in the United States by Phyllis.com.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so they got the hookup, guys, on the wings. So we're gonna talk to these guys about this shortly. But we're gonna get right into it. We're just gonna make sure we're everywhere. You guys can find us on our YouTube channel. While you're there, if you guys are watching us on YouTube right now, make sure you get down to that bottom corner and hit that like button. We need all the support we can get. And that's about it, guys. We're going to roll right into this. We got a little bit of news for you guys today. We're going to start off with some headline news that we've collected throughout the week here. Headline news is always fun. Illinois cannabis sales to non-residents is booming. Illinois cannabis sales to out-of-state residents has nearly doubled since sales began in January, from 8.6 million to 17.2 million in August. The Center Square reports under the new state law, people can purchase 15 grams of flower per dispensary visit, while residents can purchase up to 30 grams.
Oh, nice.
New York Police Department cop is forced to retire due to medical cannabis registration. A former New York Police Department officer, Robert Cascalanda, has retired from the department on September 17th, filed a first-of-its-kind lawsuit against the city of New York on Wednesday, alleging that its former employer has discriminated against and harassed him because of his use of a doctor-prescribed medical cannabis. Pennsylvania patient sues employer for medical cannabis discrimination. The U.S. District Court of Eastern District of Pennsylvania is allowing a medical cannabis patient to move forward with a lawsuit alleging her employer wrongfully terminated her for cannabis use. Donna Hudnell, a former security analyst for Thomas Jefferson University Hospitals, said she was fired after failing a drug test for cannabis despite being a lawfully registered patient. The New Jersey governor works to get the vote out for marijuana legalization. The governor of New Jersey is amplifying his support for a marijuana legalization referendum that will appear on the state's November ballot. In an email blast sent by the New Jersey Democratic State Committee on Wednesday, Governor Phil Murphy wrote that legalization is a priority of his campaign and his re-campaign for governor. He emphasized racial disparities in cannabis enforcement. The governor said July 1st, legalizing cannabis is an incredibly smart thing to do for both the economic and social justice perspectives. The American Medical Association asked Mississippi voters to reject medical marijuana ballot initiative. A medical marijuana legalization initiative that will appear on Mississippi's November ballot is being targeted by two medical associations that are pushing voters to reject the policy change. With weeks left until the vote, the Mississippi State Medical Association and the American Medical Association are circulating a sample ballot that instructs voters on how to reject the activist-led measure. For supporters and opponents alike, the way the ballot is structured can be confusing. The product of a legislature approving an alternative that appears alongside Initiative 65. Last but not least, guys, this is huge. Hawaii's governor has officially legalized the sale of weed edibles.
Yep.
After 2 months of delay, Hawaii Governor David Ig had finally legalized the state of medical marijuana sales. This July, Aloha State lawmakers passed a bill 2097, a bill to expand the state's medical marijuana program. This bill allows licensed dispensaries to create and sell their own edibles, process that will be regulated by the Department of State of Health. In addition to legalizing edibles, the bill will also allow dispensaries to sponsor events and publish educational materials concerning the benefits of medical pot. That's all I got for this week, guys, for some quick headline news that we want to discuss. Let's get right into it now. We have Brian Peace from the Ganj Father, man. You have quite a story. We checked you out. I mean, you're all over the internet. You've got all sorts of videos. One of the great things is the magic butter. But I'm going to let you start off with who you are, Brian, where you're from, and how you got into cannabis, man.
All right, I first want to say it's an honor and a privilege to be on your platform. It's always humbling when someone reaches out and invites me to be on their social media. So I'm 46 years old. I was born in Galveston, Texas. I was there a couple of years, and then I moved to Louisiana, a little town of 156 people. And yeah, that's where I'm from. And in or about 1989, I took a contusion to the head, and it contused the back left side of my brain. And it put me in a coma for about 5 days. And when I came out of the coma, I had epilepsy. And, you know, I was about 15, 16 years old then. You're already going through a lot of changes in your life. And like I said, being from a small town, not too many people know about epilepsy. So they took us to the next biggest city, found a neurologist, and she put me on heavy barbiturates. Phenobarbital, 1,000 milligrams a day, Tegretol, 1,000 milligrams a day. And I'll be honest with you, when you're on that much brain drugs, you're as far from yourself as you could possibly be. And you know, that went on for about 10 years. The medicines, over the counter medicines, did not stop my seizures. They just kind of prolonged them. And in 2002, I moved out here to Las Vegas. California was a neighboring. And so cannabis was looked upon a lot more favorable than it was in Louisiana. I don't think they even have, I believe they're just getting medical in Louisiana.
They're just getting medical, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe they're just getting it. And so when I came out here, the cannabis that I was partaking in was a million times better than what I was getting in Louisiana. So I noticed after about 6 or 8 months, I hadn't had a seizure, which was, you know, an extreme amount of time for me. I usually had a couple of months, 3 or 4 months. And so I kind of just looked at what I was doing different. And my cannabis intake was the main thing that was different. So you have to do a little R&D when it comes to cannabis. You know, people always say, oh, is this going to mess me up? Or is this, you know, it's just like any other type of medicine. Everybody reacts to it differently. So I had to do a good bit of R&D to find out where my buffer zone was there for the seizures. And after about a year of not having any seizures, I decided I was just going to wean myself off the barbiturates. And of course, I didn't tell my wife or mother, because they would have flipped out if they thought I was going to stop just taking my seizure medication. Because cannabis at that point in time, you know, it was a lot more accepted out here. But you know, my mother, she's older, and she's very for cannabis. Okay, she smokes, but you know, for me to say, hey, I'm going to just quit taking these prescription pills and I'm just going to switch over to cannabis was you know, they're worried about me. They don't want me having a seizure or while I'm driving or anything of that nature. So I had to do it without telling them. And I haven't had a seizure since 2012 on strictly cannabis.
That's awesome, dude.
That's
awesome.
amazing.
That's great, man.
That's
You know,
these are stories that not a lot of
It-
people talk about. Is
Right.
how well it works. I mean, not to interrupt your story, but what was your main usage of it? Was it just oil?
well, back then it was smoking it constantly. You know, I would smoke it about every couple of hours. I would not go any longer than 4 hours without smoking. Now, now that I'm so heavily into cannabis and everything, and I make my own products and this and that, I infuse oils, edibles, and things of that nature. You know, I definitely smoke. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to medicate, you know, I try to tell people when you smoke a joint, unless you have that weed tested and get a real THC level on it, you really don't know what you're intaking.
Correct.
When I make my edibles or my oils, you know, I'm using distillate, I'm using mother liquor. It's all been tested. I know the THC level, the CBG, CBN, I know all the levels. So at that point in time, you know, when I put it into edibles like that, I can take an exact dosage, which is a lot easier than, you know, shooting in the dark sometimes.
Right. I mean, with edibles, yeah, it's always a trick, like you said. It's a shot in the dark. You don't know how it's going to hit you. Sometimes you don't really know what you get in a lot of the cases. So it can be tricky, man.
That is the main thing that I do caution people. You know, to every day that I wake up and I open my eyes and I can smoke a blunt and not worry about my neighbors calling the cops. You know, it's a blessing. But just like anything that is positive, you know, there are people out there who take that and make it negative for the wrong reasons. You know, it's not hard. I tell people it's not hard to print a label that says 7,000 milligrams of THC when it has 10. It's not hard. And you know, people like that really don't understand that people like myself are taking it medically, you know, and it's very important that what that label says on it is what is inside, is what contained inside. And there's just so much knockoffs and fraud right now as far as that's concerned. I am very blessed that I can make my own stuff and know exactly what's in it, you know, because that's really 99% of it, you know, knowing what is in it. And it's the same way with cartridges. You know, I have a cartridge here. My sponsor, Roken Vapes, you know, this is the best little vape cartridge on earth. But I don't just go out and buy any cartridge. I have a certain person I get them from, you know, and I know it's real terpenes. You have so many people out here. They're like, hey, you know, I want a sativa cartridge or a hybrid or an indica, and they want to buy these knockoff cartridges. And I tell them, listen, man, if you seriously want medicine, you do need to go to a dispensary and get a cartridge that has real cannabis terpenes.
Well,
People
it's
don't
just
understand.
it's just like you were saying, and I want to cut in, and it's just I'm going through all of that right now. So I've got a few products coming out from Deliciously Dope, like olive oils and things like that, and I send them out for testing, and within like a week I'll know how hot it is, or you know how under it is. You're allowed a certain, you know, there's guidelines to this, absolutely. Especially here in Michigan, you're allowed to be under by so many points and still round up, right? Like, so if I'm at, you know, 48 out of 50, they're gonna round that up because somebody's gonna do a heavy dose and it's fine. But if you're at 51, it's hot. You got to throw everything out. You see what I'm saying? Everything that was that dose has got to be thrown out. So it's very, very crucial to be, you know, dead nuts on and know exactly what you're dosing, how much and why. Which
Absolutely.
yeah, man, that's the point. You know, look at it this way: if you are in pain like in pain and you have a headache or something, are you going to take something that you may or may not know what it is, or are you going to take something you actually know? For example, you've got a headache, okay? You're going for acetaminophen. You're take 800 milligrams of acetaminophen and your headache goes away. We know that. That's how you know your body.
Exactly.
Are you going to take some random ass pill? You're like, this could work. That also could kill you. You don't know until you ingest it. You know what I'm saying? So it's really, dude. Yes. It's a.
Well, Brian,
and what people don't, what people really don't understand is that, when they're smoking distillate, they're out of the cartridge, unless it has real cannabis terpenes, you're just smoking Delta 9, and it's not latching on to any cannabinoid receptors other than the Delta 9 cannabinoid receptor.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot with the product and how much we lose through processes and procedures on how to get cannabis to you. And what is medicine, man? I'm glad you bring that up, because that is something we talk about is the cart issue, that process, and the cheap carts. The hot dog water, all these different things.
Oh, yeah.
Now you raise a great issue that we talk about a lot, Brian. And obviously, until we can get some regulations involved, I guess, some testing, some regulations, and some state level stuff like we see. Michigan's pretty strict. California is pretty strict. Now, a lot of these places are confined to how many milligrams legally they can put inside of a package or per piece of a serving, right? Which really kind of messes with the industry, because literally, what's 5 milligrams of CBD going to do for you, right?
Right.
If you're in the California market, you can only buy by the 5 milligram CBD increments. Now, you're in Vegas, man. What's the Vegas scene like when it comes to CBD and everything? I mean, I see you're sitting in front of this huge nugget.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So tell us a little bit about what the scene's like out there.
That's a shout out to the Las Vegas Cannabis Museum and Ascend Media, and also Las Vegas Cannagars. They're real good friends of mine, and they hit me up. Unfortunately, the Cannabis Museum has had to close because of COVID-19. COVID-19 has done some damage to a lot of places, and unfortunately they had to close down, but their loss is my gain. They donated this 8-foot nug here that we call
that's amazing.
Budzilla.
And, yes.
Yeah.
Budzilla.
And people ask me what strain it is. It's Ganj Father OG.
Ganj. Okay.
So yeah, if you want to take a look at it there.
There's so many things right with this picture. I'm just saying.
It's
that
awesome,
is fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So everybody get a good look at it here.
The 8-foot cannabis snug.
I mean,
as you see in looking around the rest of the restaurant, it's very cannabis themed.
Yep.
Okay. We have live reggae going. We have reggae going over the PA. We do have live reggae shows here all the time. Not at the moment because of COVID.
Right.
But and we are the first restaurant in America to offer CBD infusion throughout the whole menu, and that was that's something that I'm very proud of, because
and you should be.
We have
absolutely.
We have over 100 flavors of wings. Now that is a feat in itself. People ask me how I came up with 100 flavors of wings, and they really think I'm bullshitting them. But to be honest with you, when I really started smoking heavily to medicate, it just kind of opened my palate up.
Yep.
It kind of opened my creativity up. I never aspired to be a chef in my life. I have a bachelor's degree in interior design. But in smoking cannabis, it's crazy, because if it weren't for cannabis, I would have seizures and I wouldn't have this restaurant, because when I started smoking, like I said, just opened everything up, and you get the munchies, and the next thing you know, I have flavors like spicy strawberry cheesecake and spicy French chicken and French toast, and spicy peanut butter and jelly wings, and I'm blessed in so many ways that cannabis cannabis is truly, it gave me my life back, and it also, it took me to places I never thought I'd be. I'm from a town of 156 people, and I have a very successful restaurant here in the heart of Las Vegas. I mean, what else could I ask for?
Right. It's amazing what cannabis how it affects people's and it can change their lives, right? Um, you know, we got a lot of people, you guys. If you want to talk in and get involved in the conversation, just make sure you join us on YouTube today. Our live feeds based from there. So if you got anything you want to ask, say. We got a couple people talking about packaging and how even grows should be labeled, not only just edibles and things of that nature, but the grows. Now, you have a few products, Brian, correct? That you are selling under the Ganj Father label, right?
Yes, and you know, I want to touch back on the point of you know, you have the legal side of cannabis, then you have the black market side of cannabis. You know, and people, they're kind of in a quandary here because they don't want to go and pay all the taxes that they charge at dispensaries. So they end up going to, you know, their friend. And as long as their friend knows what they're doing, as long as they're well educated and well versed in what they're doing, that's great. But not a lot of people are, unfortunately. And that's where you get into dank cartridges, you know, and that's another thing. The Chinese are playing, they are making millions right now on these edible packaging, dank cartridges,
Yep, the
stony
Mylar
patches,
bags and tanks. And
yeah,
stuff.
the
Yep.
little Mylar bags,
Yep.
all of that stuff. They're making a killing on
Oh
it,
yeah.
and all they're doing is shipping it here, and then somebody who has no clue what they're doing is packaging them full of whatever, you know,
Yep.
it is they're putting in it, and
Yep.
that's an issue.
Yep.
That's
And they're
an
just
issue.
copying packaging. So and you don't know you're getting again with hot dog water, right? A lot of these
Right,
packages
right.
are known on the market, and most people are like, oh, it was a quality pack, it was a quality company at one point, and they just stole the labeling. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
like you said, there's ways to find out. There's carts. I think the carts are the biggest issue. We talk about that a lot. How poor quality they are. We had Nick on last a couple weeks ago, right? That was amazing talking to Nick because he was even talking about the after fire. What happens when the actual metal heats up, and then
Yep.
you know, like I'm a metals guy. I've been in car sheet fab, and I know when I heat up a metal, it flakes. You know what I mean? It off gases. It will smoke itself, whether regardless of what's on it. It's just
Absolutely.
scary. It's scary to think about what's going on inside of carts. So a lot of that quality is being taken for granted. And like you know, I tell people all the time, if you can find yourself a $20 1 gram cart, there's probably something weird with that. You know what I mean?
There's a
That's just
reason it's
almost
$20.
yeah, it's almost too good to be true, you know. Because you got to think about the product, all what it takes to put a good quality cart together, and then look at the market on the good quality carts. Now you guys have an oil. Now, like you said, the medical, what we see a lot in the medical industry is to me, there's an overlap of the medical with recreation, where I think that needs to be really pulled apart more. You know what I mean? There needs to be different emphasis taken. Like, you know, if I want to get high, like you mentioned before, if I want to get high, I got a blunt right here. You know what I mean? But like that might not be great if I'm a patient, right? Or a cart, right? It's a great
That's
substitute, but
right.
is it really medicine, right? How much medicine? How many cannabinoids are you really getting into that product that are actually helping you rather than just getting you stoned for the moment? It's kind of like drinking whiskey to fix your broken toe. You know what I mean? It doesn't fix your toe. It just makes you, you know, kick a wall harder again. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it goes back farther than that though. Before any of that happens, you need to understand what are you trying to heal. You know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly.
because you know there might be a mental health issue where like you're having a panic attack and you're like, well, what's the quickest administration of THC or whatever have you, or some kind of cannabinoid into my system? Well, smoking a joint. You know what I mean? I've had a panic attack, on the line before at a couple restaurants, and I was like, holy fucking shit! Like I've got, the ticket printer, both of them are spitting at me like, just the continually printing nightmares. Fucking full rail. I've got a sous chef that's like, oh my god, I just shit my pants and took off running, and it's like, what do? It's literally a haunted house that's lit on fire, and you're like, how do I solve this instantly? You smoke a fucking joint. that's my point. If you're having a, with CBD versus THC, it's CBD what you don't feel and THC what you want to feel, and so do that accordingly. And it goes back to strains, what flavors, terpenes, cannabinoid, all of these things are important. And it's pioneers like us, everyone in this video right now, that's helping bring this to people and going, listen, you used to have epilepsy. Smoke this kind of weed, eat these edibles, and you're going to be Gucci. But don't ever fuck with these things because they just made me antsy. You know what I mean? Like, it's where we kind of like, we've dosed ourselves and we just share with people now. Dude, I fucking love that, man. That's what makes me feel better about moving from the kitchen, if you will, to cannabis. It's the same shit. I'm still cooking. It is what it is.
Well, I kind of took the kitchen and cannabis and spun them together.
There you go. Eventually, I want to as well, but it's just like I'm in that middle recession where it's kind of like I'm not a big name yet. I'm not known yet. I've got to make a name for myself, if you will. And so that's where I'm at. You know what I mean? And so it's like, while I do that, I'm going to create these products to put my name on it. I really started with absolutely nothing, and I met these guys and just fucking blew up. You know what I mean? And it's not about me, man. It's about these ugly little bastards. You know what I mean? Shit. Once a week you talk to them. They let you know the good shit, the bad shit.
I thought you thought I was sexy.
Listen, no. I smoked the weed you gave me. Different. Nope. No, that was
okay. Sorry.
All right,
the
well,
weed I gave you was sexy.
We'll get to that weed later. We got a whole episode on that, right?
So,
what I want to talk to Brian about though is a journey that because Brian, like you said earlier, you weren't in this industry, right? You came from a different industry, and now the idea was cannabis had an effect on you in your life, and epilepsy, right? Which again is a huge story that a lot of people don't talk about, is how they medicate. I think a lot of people are afraid to even look at or have that conversation because they trust doctors nowadays, right? Now, how did you take that and get in, how did you get into the wing game, man? Like you talked about, you have this crazy restaurant, over 100 different types of wings, and you nailed it, man. I was going to ask about the strawberry cheesecake wings, because I saw that on the menu on the page, and oh man, I was dying. I got to try some of these wings. But how did you end up bringing the two together, and where did that inspiration come from you? Because again, you said this wasn't even really an industry that you were involved with prior.
It was not. So, I grew up in the deep South, and we're definite football fans, college football fans. So, I grew up tailgating and cooking wings and stuff. Never really thought much of it. And then in 2011, I had a Super Bowl party here at my house and invited a bunch of people. And, I threw together about 10 different flavors of wings. And people were like, bro, what the fuck are you doing with your life? Why don't you have a wing restaurant? I didn't think much of it, and as I sat back and thought about it, I was a manager for Lowe's for 10 years. I did the corporate thing, and I decided to give it a shot. And I took $3,500. In 2012, I opened up inside a little food court. There's no hood in Vegas, but you can call it the hood here. And through all the local support and all the support of tourism, we have been featured on Travel Channel. We've been featured on Food Paradise. We've been featured on what's that one? Be Real. It's High and Hungry.
Yep.
With E-Zone. And we were named top 20 wing restaurants by Thrillist.com, #1 in Nevada. So I started out with probably like 20 flavors. And when you first start a restaurant, you have a little time on your hands because really no one knows anything about you. So, in between orders, I would go out back and smoke a little weed and come back in. And, I have all these spices and all these sauces around me and everything. And I mean, it just started. I just started making sauces, and it just came together. It really did. And so in 2017 or so, we got this standalone restaurant here in Spring Valley, and I said, you know what? Cannabis is what is the foundation of this restaurant. So why don't we start adding CBD to the food if people want? And so for about 6 months, we would people could order the CBD, and we would put it all in the back. And then my liquor license people came through, and they were like, "What the fuck are you doing?" So when it comes to the CBD, and so they jerked my liquor license.
Oh shit.
And, yeah, they jerked my liquor license. And so I had to go hire a cannabis lawyer.
Yep.
And it took about 10 months. I went through, I believe, 5 different depositions, I believe, with the health department, with drugs, alcohol, tobacco, firearm, any and everybody that has anything to do with the restaurant. I had to sit down. And finally, after 10 months, we go in and they said, okay, you can have CBD, but you can't put it on in the back for the customer. The customer has to adhere it themselves. And so
that's easy.
Well, at first, I was pissed. I mean, I'm like, okay, they're trying to loophole my ass and, just throw some BS at me. And I left the deposition pissed. I felt like I'd lost the battle. And I went home. And at that point in time, I had some distillate I put in the little bitty glass syringes with the real terpenes I mixed up. And I grabbed it and went to take a dab. And as I dropped that distillate into the dab rig, I looked at this syringe and I'm like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell
there
no.
you go.
Oh, they want to play games with me. We can play games. Okay. Yeah. We can play games. So I decided that we would take those syringes, put them in nice packaging. And whenever a customer orders their food, they can order 100 milligrams increments for I believe it's $5 or $7.
Okay.
And it's full spectrum CBD, and it has no taste to it, so you can adhere to anything on our menu, and does not change the flavor of your food. It also promotes food interaction. And it gives them something to take home back to Kentucky or wherever and say, hey, look, I put weed on my food or whatever. Right. So they tried to screw me, but they ended up
telling you how to solve it.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. A lot of people, I think, would have kind of given up at that point. And again, cannabis stepped in. If I hadn't taken that, if I hadn't had that little glass syringe to take that dab with, I don't know if I would have thought about that.
Mary Jane was just like, yo, here's the answer.
It is. Absolutely. So in doing that, we got our liquor license back, and people come in and they purchase CBD all day long. We hear all the time how someone's just driven in from California or from Utah or Arizona, and their back is killing them when they come in, and after they eat our food infused with CBD, that they don't have backaches, their headaches are gone. I call it healing while you're dying. Why not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
So Another thing I'd like to touch on is, a lot of people ask, well, why do you do it in 100 milligram increments? Well, the public, I don't feel like the public is being educated correctly in the CBD. You'll go into CBD shops and they'll have 400 or 500 milligram this. The body can only absorb 100 milligrams every 4 hours. Okay, that's why they only give 800 milligram ibuprofen, because the body can only absorb 800 milligrams. You can take 1600, but it's a waste. You're going to piss it right out. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, a lot of people don't understand that. They take tons of CBD. Well, you're wasting money, right? You're wasting money. And one thing I'll touch on also that not a lot of people know about, and that is mother liquor. You know what mother liquor is?
No.
Okay. So in all of my edibles, my THC edibles, my sauces, my THC syrups and things, people ask me, they're like, yo man, what in the world makes your edibles so good? And my secret ingredient, I don't mind telling it. You have distillate, which has all the terpenes removed from it, so there's no taste or anything like that. But if all the terpenes are removed from it, is it going to latch on to certain cannabinoids? Right, correct. Okay, so I have a friend who is the head scientist for a CBD company. And when you are isolating CBD, all the other cannabinoids are separated off to the side.
Yes.
Okay. But it contains 10% THC. So these CBD companies can't sell it legally, right? So my friend gives it to me, okay, because they can't sell it. They're just going to throw it away. And I have COAs on it, and it has 10% THC, but it has 51% CBD and 28% CBG. It has all the other cannabinoids that are pulled off in order to isolate that CBD. So I take the distillate and I take the mother liquor, I mix them together. Now you have full spectrum edibles with absolutely no full spectrum taste.
And you're
that latch onto all that latches onto all your cannabinoid receptors.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. That's brilliant, dude. That's awesome. You should patent that.
Yeah.
Well, the entourage effect.
I definitely should.
The entourage effect is, the entourage effect is something we talk about a lot, which doesn't get educated enough, and it starts with doctors. Really, I mean, nobody really knows any of the cannabinoid systems to talk to patients, to really discuss what they're taking in on a medication. Now, Tom, I just cut you off. What did you want to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love the idea that Brian is using the full spectrum in his edibles as opposed to just the distillate, because for me, especially when I look at THC, not just CBD, but when I look at THC, you can definitely notice the difference between something that's full spectrum and something that's not. Obviously with CBD, you're not supposed to really notice the effects quite as much as you would with THC. But in my mind, if I have a THC distillate cart, it doesn't matter to me whether it's not the terpenes are in it or cannabis derived or not. If it doesn't have a full spectrum effect, other cannabinoids in there that gives it more of that original plant material content, I'm going to have a racy head buzz. I'm going to be irritable. I'm going to be racing all over the road. And it's not a good time.
There's going to be side effects. Yeah.
Exactly. So with the CBD.
And the main thing with full spectrum is everybody knows it tastes like shit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it tastes like shit. That's why most people don't deal in full spectrum. But I definitely have figured out a way for 100% full spectrum without any bad ill taste.
Right.
I love that.
I did exactly that for my olive oil. The exception is I added the terpenes after.
Yeah. I mean, terpenes are nice if you are really matching flavors as a chef, right? But when you have 100 wings that covers literally every flavor you could think of, You kind of need
insane.
a balance, like
That's
you just need something that's balanced, right? Because you're buying those wings for the flavor that you bought them for, unless you get a little bit of touch of that just like that cannabis earthiness. Like I don't know if I'd want to like try to make that decision for people. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, and I really try to tell mine, you know, in the restaurant industry, it is about consistency.
Absolutely.
Period.
Consistency is
It is
fucking key.
about consistency and appearance. Okay, the
Absolutely.
aesthetics and the consistency. If someone comes here and they find a flavor out of 100 fucking flavors that they like, you know, they're probably going to come back here and try that flavor again. So when they come in, if it is altered in any way from the taste that they tasted the first time, they're not going to be happy about it, you know.
Nope.
And they're going to question what's going on back there. You know, is you got 100 flavors, but are any of them going to taste the same if I eat them twice? And when you have 100 flavors, you have to. I have a guy here called my sauce boss, and his only job when I first started this, you know, I would have different employees make the sauces, okay, and consistency. So I would find that this week it tasted a little bit different than last week. You know, oh well, Joey made it instead of Sharon or whatever. So I had to put that come to a halt with that, and just have one single person who is making these sauces. So first of all, that person's usually going to do it the same just about every time. And second of all, I know who the fuck to go back to if it isn't consistent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Well, as a chef, I like to tell everybody that McDonald's, right? I mean, McDonald's made its living on consistency. It's not like they cook a great burger, but it's consistently the same thing. No matter where you go, it's the same price.
They streamline the process.
Right. You know what I mean? It's not like it's the best burger you can go buy. Like, you know, there's $12 burgers out there. You can go to McDonald's and buy a $1 burger, but I know the burger I'm going to buy in Vermont here is going to be the same as Las Vegas, right? Yep. That's the idea. And then like you said, the service. So consistency is consistency. It's the number one thing they teach you because, again, like you said, the last thing I want to do is, hey, let's go check out these wings, and come back one time with a room full of people, and they're not the same, and then they're not the same again, and they're not the same again, and you're just going to give up on them, right?
Absolutely.
So I mean, with you just have the customer feel defeated. They're like, we have 100 different flavors that'll be different each time. You're like, that's too much, man.
Yeah, right. It's almost overload. But how is the city taking it? I mean, we're talking about Las Vegas, right? It's the city of sin. We're talking about cannabis, and we know how laws can be. We know how regulations can be. We know how statewide, you know, there's many discrepancies between states. How has I mean, like you said, you were nominated for an award. How has Las Vegas taken in the CBD market?
We actually I won #1 cannabis restaurant in Las Vegas at the Las Vegas Cannabis Awards last year, and so this year I was a award presenter. They wanted, you know, someone else to be able to win, so I was a presenter this year. I smoked right before I come on here. What was your question again?
You're all right. You can smoke on here. That's the best part.
How is Las Vegas taking? I'll tell you what. Las Vegas is. I fucking love it here, bro. I love it here. You know, people complain about maybe 3 months of the heat here. Get the fuck out of here. I grew up in Louisiana. You got a hurricane or a tropical storm or a tornado, or it's just, you know, we don't have to worry about, or right next door to us over here in California, the whole damn state's burning. We don't have any inclement weather here. It gets hot 3 months out of the year, and everything else is cool. So I love it here. And as far as the cannabis industry, I would probably say that this is the closest thing. You know, I think we've overtaken Amsterdam, to be honest with you, here in Las Vegas now. I really do. We have the world's largest dispensary at 155,000 square feet. Put that in perspective, bro. 155,000 square foot dispensary.
That's huge. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous.
So, you know, people come here. People come to Las Vegas to get away from reality. Okay, they come here to gamble. They come here to do things that they can't do in their own state. They come here to gamble. They come here for prostitution. They come here for going to the clubs and the 24-hour-a-day nightlife. And it's the exact same thing with cannabis. People come here. Some people come here just for cannabis, and that's it. And my restaurant, I am lucky enough that, since we were put on national TV, I get people from Australia and everything coming in wanting to take pictures, and it blows my country ass away, but whatever. We have really become a staple as far as tourism. When cannabis smokers come here, they go to Planet 13, they go to Las Vegas Cannabis Museum, they come here, because it's just, there's certain things here that are, that cannabis smokers want to go to and see and say they've been there and done that. So I'm very lucky in the fact that, my timing in opening this up, there's a million things that had to come together for it to be successful as it is, and they did all come together. I'm not going to tell you without me having to tie a couple of double knots or anything, but I'm not one to let something small deter me in any way.
Right. Well, looks like it's a great idea. I have to go, man. I'm a huge wing fanatic, right? Are you gonna franchise this? Are we gonna see these anywhere else in legalized states? Is this something that you're planning on doing, or?
We are opening one in the next 6 months in Reno, Nevada, and I'm looking for 2 or 3 places here in town for Wing King to go. So this will be my flagship. People want to come see Nugzilla, any of that stuff, they can come here. But if they just want to order some wings to go quick and easy, then they'll have those outlets also.
So satellite stores.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it, man. I love it. And like you said, it coming from like a football standpoint or like a tailgate standpoint, man, do you have to go? Can I call up and order a set of wings to the tailgate party? Is that how it works out there, or not quite yet?
Absolutely, you can. Absolutely can. Now, see, I'm not here most of the time. Most of the time, a couple of years ago, I won top cannabis chef for High Times in San Bernardino, Southern California, and that really opened up the door for. And it's a combination of winning that and being in a city that stars come to all the time. And LA is right over here. So 99% of the time I am out cooking cannabis dinners for high profile people. I don't discuss a lot of the people that I cook for. They still like to, if they're movie stars or anything like that, they have to maintain a certain look in public and all that, because there are people who would stop buying their movies because they're a pothead or whatever. Right. I can't believe we still in 2020 it's that way, but it is. But I did a 28,000 milligram peach cobbler for Snoop Dogg and a Dog Pound, and when they come out here to Dreas, they usually order up some stuff. And Tommy Chong is a vegan. I cook for him. And those are 2 that really don't give a shit if I tell you about it. So yeah, right. you know what they're about.
Yeah.
But the rest of them kind of keep it on a low pro,
Yeah. Well, it's a great industry, man, oh, sorry, I didn't cut you off there.
Well, yeah. It pays well, and I do what I love to do. And I mean, when you can wake up every day and you can do what you love to do, man, I mean, what else is better than that?
Right.
That's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do.
There's so many people go out there and punch a time clock and pay all these taxes when our president's paying $750 every year in taxes and stuff. That whole thing last night. I'm not going to get into politics, but that whole thing last night was a fiasco.
I'll be honest.
It was a shit show, bro.
Yep.
It was a shit show, and it made me.
I just 86 the whole thing. I watched maybe 10 minutes of it. And I was like, nah, I'm done.
No, I watched most of it. In amazement. I just blew my mind.
I watched every.
Yep.
I watched Netflix.
I watched every bit of it.
I can't. The fact checkers as well. I was waiting to come out for today because I was just like, listen to these guys just rattle stuff off at each other and argue with each other and just point blank. Like I'm just like, I was fairly blown away. The politics that we have that we're looking at is crazy to me. But the thing that's scary is which way it can go, especially on a cannabis level, depending on who we vote for right now. We don't normally get into the political side of things just because it's like it's such a divisive subject for a lot of people because no one's open to an intelligent conversation. Nobody just wants to sit down and listen to everybody's side. If they make it a red or blue side, right? Which really becomes divisive. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the middle that go, hey, cannabis is a significant bipartisan issue, which is what I love about it, right? We see a lot of bipartisan support when we see the issue right now. And me and Tim, we talk about it all the time, right? The strength of the bipartisan that we see in this country right now is huge, right? Which way the presidency can go is going to change a lot of what the outcome is. But our biggest issues is like our Senate. The old timers that have been there for 30 years, the Mitch McConnells, these guys that are really kind of fucking it up for everybody. No matter who we get in office. But when we look at these guys, like you said, the debate last night, you really have to scratch your head and wonder like how we ever got into a position where we're trying to pick the best of the worst evils instead of picking the best of what we have to offer, right?
I have an 11-year-old and I have a 7-year-old boy. They're both boys. And they debate better than what the fuck I saw last night.
Yeah.
Just being honest with you. And if you want to know who needed the biggest fucking blunt last night, that poor mediator. He needed a fatty to smoke on last night.
The mediator had no control last night. I was just like, he was the biggest problem, my opinion, right? I want to see Joe Rogan do the mediator in one of these things. I'd be stoked.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Hey, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, literally.
It was a fucking dumpster fire if I've ever seen one. You know what I mean?
Right. By the end of it, he was literally like, "Can you just shut the fuck up, Mr. President?" And he was trying to be nice. At some point, he had to say that. But I mean, a debate's supposed to be even sides, right? Like this is what we talk about: open-minded conversations, right? And like nobody knows us better than cannabis people, right? Because this is all we do. We try to have that open-minded conversation with people that surround the stigma in our industry, right? And like you said, you kind of fell into the right place in the right time, and everything came together for you. You're in a city that it's like this is part of the lifestyle, right? This is part of why we go to Las Vegas, right? This is part of the experience, right? And you've harnessed that. Now, across the country, we got lots of people hoping that someday we can get these, cannabis consumption lounges, eateries, food places completely legal, right?
If you want to put one of those wing places in Michigan, Brian, let me know. I'll make it happen.
Right. Michigan's hopping right now too.
Hey,
I'm serious.
We definitely. I'm serious too. We just need to sit down and go over some stuff. But
and that's the thing. You were
my
talking about.
son-in-law is from Michigan, so.
Yeah.
Oh, my son-in-law's from Michigan, so because me and him are always going at one another. He's a Spartans fan, and I'm an LSU Tigers fan.
Oh shit! I bleed green too, dog. I live right in East Lansing, so let's see. Politics are one thing. Now we just cannot talk about that. That's
right. Yeah, we got
no, man. As long
football
as it ain't,
wings, right?
As long as it ain't U of M, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, right. Well, that's something we can talk about after the show. Is franchising this thing for you guys, right? But I mean, it's a great concept.
Here's what I'd like people to know about Weed. Okay, it was my goal to bring people as many options as possible here. So we have. About a year ago, I had to go vegetarian because of health purposes. And, going back down south, telling my southern friends that I'm vegetarian, boy, let me tell you what, they give me hell about that. But
I'm from Tennessee. I know exactly what you're talking about, man. It don't happen.
Yeah. Yes.
Gluten-free doesn't exist.
That's right.
They don't.
So I'm not vegetarian because I don't like meat. I'm not vegetarian because I don't want to eat meat. I'm not vegetarian because I don't want all the barbecue in the world. It's strictly for health purposes. So after about a year or so of being vegetarian, I mean, my body was craving something savory. And, you know, I kind of put it in my mind that I was going to create a vegan wing. And it took me about 6 months to come up with this soy water protein concentrate, the consistency, all of that. And we take a small skewer and put it in the middle, and we make flats and drums. So you can come in, and whether you're a vegetarian, whether you're a vegan, whether you eat meat, you can all sit at the table. You can all enjoy one another's conversation, and no one there has to settle for anything. They don't have to settle for just eating some fries.
Yeah.
And you know, all of our vegan items, all of our breaded items, all of our pork items, all of our chicken items are all fried in different fryers, so nothing is crossed over whatsoever.
Nice.
And that's what food is about, man. It's about bringing people together, you know.
Absolutely.
Yep.
When you walk in our restaurant, it says one world, one love, one people, and that's what it's about, you know. And you look at Wingstop, you look at Buffalo Wild Wings or something like that. They completely cut that demographic out.
Absolutely.
And it's 40% of my business. I had no clue there were so many people who are vegan and vegetarian until I brought that wing out.
Yep. You know, it's a huge market. As a chef, we've seen it for years, and you see it getting recommended more and more and more by the health industry. Obviously, for certain things, like you said, you know, you're doing it for a health thing more than you are. Like some people do it just for the, you know, the mentality of eating an animal with a name. You know what I mean? And being the owner of a chicken joint, I guess a wing joint, you must have got a little bit of flack by that, but the unique thing is, like you said, you came up with the answer, right? So you could keep eating your sauces and trying things. Are these things available for people to buy out of the market? Like, do you offer these products like your sauces, your wings, things like that, so people can actually, like you said, take home?
On our website, you can purchase any of the 100 sauces. When you come in, you can purchase any of the 100 sauces. As far as our vegan wings, I am looking into packaging. I've been doing some discussions with Whole Foods, you know, where they could be packaged. We already freeze them. We make them, then freeze them, and then whenever they're ordered, they're fried. So it wouldn't be hard to actually put that into a bag and into a grocery store where people can go and get them whenever they want. And that's what we're really looking into.
Nice. So
That's where the money's at. That's where the money's at. So.
Get it out there, right? Well, we're gonna switch gears here a little bit. We'll talk to Timothy Fair. We'll bring him on. Waiting patiently. It's been a fun week, Tim.
A real fun week.
You know, we've been talking about it. We'll start right in on it. The last couple of weeks, you know, here in Vermont, we're looking at legalization of our rec market, right? Getting that figured out, the S54, passing of that. It's been a lot of back and forth on all sides, every side, up and side down and then inside out, it seems like. And where are we at this week? I know we had some time in between. I know.
How is it? We've been back and forth so much. I just want to say, Brian, too, like, I was checking out your menu there, and next time I'm in Vegas, I was out at BizCon last year, and I would have loved to know where you were, because those were incredible.
Oh, I was at BizCon last year, yeah.
Were you? I was so hoping to go this year. You know, we got COVID, but the next time they have one, I'm definitely going to have to look you up, man.
Please do.
So, yeah, I mean, we had it. We didn't have it. We had it. Now it's looking like we don't have it again. You know, it's this back and forth, Joe, that's just been a real roller coaster ride, you know. 3 weeks ago, we thought the bill was dead. We were just kind of accepting that. Then all of a sudden, it came out of nowhere. The legislature did their job for once, got it through. We made a lot of compromises, but we got a bill. We got it over the finish line in the legislature. We got it to the governor's desk, and the governor was going to sign it. And now maybe he won't, because of social justice. It's the level of frustration in our office is through the roof. You know, I just waiting on pins and needles on this one. We'll know in the next 48 hours now. By Friday, it's either going to be vetoed or it's going to be law. So,
Right,
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not a great thing to hear about. Now, what specifically is the issue that we're discussing, or what is the issue right now with the social justice?
Wonderful question. You know, social justice is one of the most important issues in legalized cannabis. You know, former criminal defense attorney, drug policy reform advocate my entire life. You know, I've seen what marijuana arrests can do. I grew up in Queens. I've seen the disproportionate impact on, you know, African Americans and Latino and basically any subgroup that the man wants to keep down. This is what they've used for 80 years at this point, especially in the last 20 or 30. You know, and you know, the origins of cannabis prohibition are without a doubt completely racist, completely xenophobic, completely able to control, starting back in the 30s and amplified in the 70s. I mean, this is basic history, we'll know this. And now we have an industry where people are all of a sudden, primarily white people, making a bunch of money off something that others have been incarcerated and are still sitting in prison for. That is unacceptable, and that needs to be dealt with, and that needs to be addressed. There is no question about it. How you answer that question is an incredibly difficult answer. Nobody has solved it yet. Nobody has gotten it yet. You know, it was only Massachusetts that was the first state to incorporate a social equity component into their legalization bill. That was an amazing first step. Didn't work out too well. You know, on paper it looked great. In implementation, it had some failures. So Illinois then learned from Massachusetts and made some adjustments and implemented a relatively better social equity program. Also looked great on paper, and in implementation, we're still seeing, but there's still a lot of issues because this is not something anyone has solved. And you've got the other factor of social equity in California does not the same as social equity in Colorado, and it's not the same as social equity in Maine or Vermont. We have different demographics, we have different makeups, so there needs to be different solutions. So not only do you have a question that there's no good answer for yet, you have multiple answers that you're going to need to implement. It is something that needs to be continued to work on. The push here is now that our bill does not include enough protections and enough reparations. That was a word that was actually used in one op-ed. That does not, so what people are looking for at this stage of the game, I can't answer that. You know, there are preferences to businesses owned by minorities, women of color. There are a mandate to the Cannabis Control Board to look and see as this issue is evolving. But the other major issue of it is not all brown and black people want to sell pot. There are minorities who have been incredibly impacted by the prohibition and by the war on marijuana who have no interest in getting into the industry. So how do we take care of them? How do we pay back? So is it community development? What communities? How does it get developed? Who makes those decisions? These are important questions that need to be asked and we need to see, and we need to implement, and we need to try, and we need to work with the communities that have been impacted by this. But to expect that Vermont legislature is going to come up with the perfect answer, and we can barely get a bill over the finish line. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, because what's going to happen if this bill gets vetoed is that people, black and brown, are still going to be profiled and arrested and charged criminally. We're still going to see the unbelievable abuses of cannabis prohibition continue. We're going to, I mean, to think that nothing is better than something, again, it just doesn't make any sense to us who've been advocating and working on this. No, the bill's not perfect. Yes, we are going to need more. Yes, there needs to be more study of this. There needs to be more, you know, implementation. There needs to be more experimentation with different strategies and different techniques, and there needs to be engagement with the communities that have been impacted by them. Here in Vermont, we have a very, very, very white state. We have a very small percentage, but you know who has been impacted by this? The poor. You know, and so how do you shut them out and say it's just, you know, black people or just brown people or just green people or just, you know, it's the communities that have been impacted by this, which have been unbelievably disproportionately brown and black in most states. But is the same answer in Brooklyn going to work in Chittenden County, Vermont? No. So to veto the whole bill, to just sink the whole thing and keep us here in this limbo where cops can still arrest people, where it's still racial
Doesn't change
profiling
anything.
on, instead of giving people an opportunity to get into the industry legally, it just doesn't make any sense.
Let me ask you a couple of questions. Like, I know this is a hot-button issue, and I know, Brian, you probably face it in Las Vegas. We face it here in Vermont. I know Mass, our neighbor, is, like Tim said, they had a great plan in place. They haven't even been able to implement any of it yet. I mean, we know that there's a lot of social equity issues going on, but now, why isn't a lot of the social equity issues basically, to me, it's a systematic issue that needs to start the police department on their level on some behalf, right? To help them get retrained, to help them relook.
Broader, way broader.
Well, I know that's broader, but don't we start at like the decriminalization, which we're starting to see now? We're starting to see a lot of states pick up the decriminalization thing.
You got to stay away from decriminalization. Decriminalization is nothing but an excuse by law enforcement, because decriminalized does not mean legal. Decriminalized means, okay, you can't go to jail for that offense. It's a fine only. First of all, a lot of people can't afford the fine. That impacts disproportionately. If you make $200,000 a year, $1,000 fine is nothing. If you're making $12 an hour at a minimum wage or barely above minimum wage job, $1,000 is devastating. That's rent for a month in some cases. So the fines can hurt. But beyond that, it also gives police the right to confiscate property, to circumvent the Fourth Amendment, allows them to still consider it an illegal contraband. So now they can search, now they have probable cause for other crimes, now they can arrest you for a probation violation. Decriminalization is not, it's a step, but it's certainly not the answer. We need legalization, we need regulation. Brian was talking before about people labeling cannabis with 7,000 milligrams of THC. Oh yeah, without standardized testing and without standardized standards. I mean, you're not going to walk into a liquor store and buy a bottle of Absolute that says 80 proof. It's going to be 80 proof. We know that. That's their standardization, there's testing, there's regulation. That consistency, yes, that's what we need for the industry. And this piecemeal state by state is frustrating enough. But then when you get the states, it's just, if there were valid arguments, hey, there were valid issues. I'm all about discussing them, and I'm willing to change my mind. But when you come up with issues saying Vermont's bill doesn't address social justice enough, of course not. We don't have that answer yet.
Right.
But we're never going to get that answer unless we get started, unless we start working, unless we start doing this, unless we have a cannabis control board who can look and go, okay, well, we see Massachusetts and we see Maine and we see Illinois and we see Washington and Oregon, and all right, this is what's worked and this hasn't. Let us try implementing this and see how this works. And maybe we can incorporate notable interest loans for minority applicants. And maybe, there's a ton of things that potentially could be done once we have established a legal framework. But trying to get these things through the legislature, Jesus Christ, you're talking about.
That's what I was going to say, Tim, was isn't that what the Cannabis Control Commission would be really tasked to put together for everybody, right?
Specifically tasked in the bill that they have to study this and get a report to the legislature next year. And the opponents are saying, oh, it shows that the legislatures didn't do their homework and they need to go back and study more about this.
Well, that's not their task. Again, that's why we have the Cannabis Control Commission. Brian, I know you wanted to say something really quick, and I don't want to cut you off. So what do you have to say there real quick?
So just what he's talking about them confiscating things and this and that. 2 years ago, I sent one of my employees to Oregon on a flight with $40,000 cash, because at that point in time, CBD had not been federally legalized, okay? And no one was taking checks or anything like that for CBD at that point. And when you have a restaurant, I go through several kilos of CBD. So this was before we had CBD here. So I was sending someone on a plane there, and TSA took $40,000 from my employee. And they're like, oh, this is drug money, this and that. And so I ended up having to, show all the receipts and everything from my restaurant. Now, if I'd just been someone who needed a couple of kilos of CBD, I wouldn't have gotten that money back. But because I have a a business that did $1.3 million last year, and I could give them receipts. It took about 10 months, but they ended up giving me my $40,000 back, Homeland Security. I had to have a lawyer and all. I paid them $1,200. Yeah, and it was, you know, they weren't doing anything illegal, nothing illegal.
Nope. No need to charge
and it cost me. First of all, they did not count it out in front of them. Okay, they did not give him a receipt for it. They just took it and said it was drug money. Well, this guy has never had a drug charge. This guy didn't have any drugs or paraphernalia on him or anything, and they tried to pocket that money. But luckily, I had a good lawyer, and he came back and they sent me a letter asking me not to sue them. If I would, you know, sign the paper not to sue them, they would give me my money back, you know, and stuff. But it is what it is. But yeah, there's gray lines in decriminalization and things.
Yes,
there definitely is,
and per state too. It's not a consistent gray line across the country either that we can all just get used to and live by. It's per state, like you said. If you're flying into a different state, if you're going to, you better know that state law back and forth. Otherwise, the repercussions can be unreal, right? That's something we see. You know what I mean? Like you said, you made a great point, like of how our industry had to work prior to legalization, right? Now we can actually send money, and in most cases, hopefully use a bank, right? And then it helps you not have those issues. But like for 10 months, having somebody with a smaller company, like you said, that say this was somebody that was just investing into their company, that probably would have crippled them. You know what I mean? A $40,000 hold up, a freeze up, any sort of issue like that, that's a lot of money. And that sounds just like they're playing the game at that point, right? We see that a lot in this industry. We talk about it a lot. And what do you do? Especially when it comes to the hemp or CBD side, where we've had friends that have had hundreds of pounds of hemp, you know, Green Angel CBD. We talk about the story all the time. They had hundreds of pounds, 100 pounds of hemp, basically locked up, frozen, taken away from them. And now there's a great lawsuit against them. It's kind of, I'm glad to see the lawsuit, and I hate to say it because I don't like to see the lawsuits going back and forth or the stigmas being thrown at each other. But at one point, somebody's got to stand up and put their foot in the ground and say, we're not going to take this no more. Like, this isn't fair. This is breaking the law.
It's a simple fact that if I hadn't had the money and the receipts, they would have taken $40,000 of my hard-earned money, and they would have put it in their pocket, and they would have been, they wouldn't have felt bad about it in any way, shape, fashion, or form. And that is complete and utter bullshit.
So what you're telling me is being a successful stoner pays off.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what I heard.
That's exactly right. You know, having all your licenses, having a good lawyer on you got to have all of that. Because, you know, here in Vegas, it is really, it's accepted a lot more than anywhere else. But I've been doing this I've been putting CBD in food for about 3 years now. And 3 years ago, if you think back, it wasn't quite that accepted. No, you know, and like I said, I was having to send cash to people, 40,000 cash. That's how this, because banks wouldn't allow you to have anything, you know, put any cannabis money into a bank account, you know. So
yeah, and that's the thing, like you're kind of opening up the doors for what I want to do. I'm right on your ankles there, man. I'm right behind you, because it's like with Deliciously Dope, it's interesting because you want to build yourself locally and then go globally if you can. Well,
we got to worry about legalized states and things like that,
and so it's like all the red tape. It's crazy. Luckily here in Michigan, like marijuana's looked at, you know, that you've gotten your business regulations and all of that. But let's say that you're smoking a joint walking down the street. Well, it all depends on where you're at and what their local laws are. You know, so know your shit, and if you get in trouble, shut the fuck up.
Right, even in town, large, right?
Fuck up.
Yeah,
hot brothers in law.
Yeah,
call your
my boys, man. Shut the
call
fuck
your lawyer.
up.
Well, speaking of that,
call your lawyer.
Speaking of that, right? Interesting news today. I mean, we're talking about, you know, Rodney makes a kind of a great point. He's talking about, you know, this is what he wants to do, but where and how can he do it, right? Las Vegas has been very accepting to Brian and Wing King, right? It just fits in with in Vegas already. You know, I mean, it's a beautiful theme, right? But Hawaii now. So in recent news, Hawaii's governor has officially legalized the sale of weed edibles. I want to talk to Tim about this a little bit. After a month of delay, they finally legalized the sale of marijuana edibles. How big is this for Hawaii? I mean, shouldn't we all have legalized edibles in most of these legalized states? Tim, what's our issue with these?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's more fear mongering. Oh, they're gummies. They're marketed for kids. Oh, kids are going to get them. Oh, it's in candy bars. Oh, they look like that. People have a really hard time understanding that cannabis is not a dangerous substance. It's incredibly difficult for people to grasp this. Most things we eat are a hell of a lot more dangerous than cannabis. McDonald's, for example, sugar, for example, caffeine,
recently.
for example. I mean, we could sit here all day. Water will kill you quicker than cannabis.
Yeah.
But this propaganda that we've been fed for 70 years, has just permeated in a lot. So anything, delivery, edibles, these are things. New York's medical program wouldn't let you smoke cannabis.
Oh, in Florida, you have to vape it.
I mean, it's just like, so. Again, like we talk a lot, Joe, about these steps. So now they've authorized, edibles. That's fantastic because you know what? They're going to have edibles and the sky's not going to fall. The world's not going to end. Children are not going to start dying, all across the state.
It's going to increase tourism for sure.
Yeah, if you ask.
Florida just, allowed edibles in their medical program, which is, expanding and quickly becoming an adult use program as more and more, people in the state. They broke 300,000 a while back. I don't know what the current numbers are, but it's considerable. And again, they started out, you couldn't smoke there either. And then thankfully the courts overturned these restrictions. And so the more and more we see this, the better and better it is. The more and more we see things like delivery, like social lounges, like edibles, and the sky doesn't fall and the world doesn't end and all the prohibitionist fear mongering doesn't come true, that makes it easier and easier. That makes it easier for other states to say, oh, look, well, they did it and they're okay. And look how much tax revenue they're getting. And, wow, their patients are, better off because there are some medical patients who smoking cannabis is not good for them. And they don't necessarily want to vape. So edibles are a wonderful option for some people. And that option should be available. Again, though, the problem, much like Ryan was talking about with flower, is that you get edibles that are not consistent, that are mislabeled, that have, adulterants, that are not, because there's a lot of people that are slinging them together in basements because we don't have standard regulation, which is another very important part. We've been blessed here in Vermont with an incredible Department of Agriculture. So we've seen a lot of companies doing CBD edibles. And we have, and I've seen just over the last 2 years of being in business with our firm, these kind of in the kitchen, small batch, just some of these companies now that are doing testing and they're consistent and they're labeling. And that's the progression we want to see. That's what we need for an industry. That needs to be just expanded beyond the state level and to the national level, where when I walk into a dispensary and there's a 50 milligram edible, I know it's 50 milligrams. Or if it's a 1-to-1, I know it's 1-to-1. I can trust those labeling, and that, is going to come with the normalization, with more states adopting this and allowing it.
Brian, what are you going to say?
Okay, so has everyone here been to Hawaii before?
No.
Not yet. No.
Okay. Okay. So, gorgeous, but we have deemed it a paradise. Okay, and we have driven because we've deemed it a paradise. Your average home out there,
So
600, 700, 800, yeah, way too expensive, and it has really driven the people who are original to there, the islanders. They've had to leave because they can't afford anything. I'm not sure how many licenses they are giving out in Hawaii, but if it's 10, they need to give 8 of them to
people already
people who are already there, and provide jobs for these people, because we went in there and deemed it a paradise and made it damn near uninhabitable unless you have $1 million a year job or something. So
no, it's literally $1 million an acre, if not more, right now.
Yeah. So if we could give these people a way to make a significant income, that it would be really good.
Yeah. Well, I know in Kauai they have a couple different hemp things going on. And one of the unique things about Hawaii, I don't think a lot of people realize this, especially with like the benefits of hemp and soil regeneration and that kind of thing. There's a lot of Monsanto property down there that's just been destroyed. That they're hoping that we can get hemp grows on. So there's a lot of, like you said, job, options down there. Unique things that can come in. There's a couple cool CBD guys that are doing some cool things down there. There's a couple lab guys that are doing some infusion and some terpene things down there that I got a chance to talk to recently. Hopefully we'll get those guys on the show, but they're doing some amazing things like a mango and cannabis dab. You know what I mean? Stuff that, that real terpenes. I mean, I know we talk about terpenes and like you can get cannabis terpenes, you can get terpenes off of other fruits and available things. And this is a lot different. You know what I mean? They're figuring this out, how to literally process it side by side and then blend it and make some cool things happen. But no, Hawaii is an interesting subject, and it's an interesting conversation because, we think of it as it's a part of America, but it's kind of out there on its own. They have different regulations and rules, and what you guys were talking about blend right into what that is. It's know where you're available, know your dosages that are legal, know what all these things do for you, right? Now, with that being said, we're going to go back to one other thing real quick. The funnest thing I've seen in a long time when we talk about politics, right, is the New Jersey governor. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to this, but Governor Phil Murphy is going nuts out there and for cannabis, man. He's sending memos out to people. He's encouraging people to vote. Tim, how is this that, again, I think we talked about this last week really quick, but again, it just blows my mind. How is it that the governor's like, it's opposite from Vermont? Like all of Vermont is literally trying to battle the governor to get this bill passed. All of New Hampshire is battling the governor to get the bill passed. And here's a governor of New Jersey who can't get it passed fast enough. Now we understand, we just talked about it, what it can do for economics, what it can do for tourism. I mean, New Jersey's sitting right outside of New York, and it's right in the beauty of it all. Next week we have somebody coming on from New Jersey, Leo. That's going to be a great conversation about what's going on. I can't wait for this. But where does this leave us? I mean, he's literally talking about how, from both an economic and social justice perspective, they need to do this, right?
Of course they need to do it. So first of all, Democrat, Republican. I mean, then that's not, I shouldn't really even say that because that's not a blue-red issue at all, but our governor is a more conservative Republican. The New Jersey governor is a little more practical. He sees, plus there's a lot of dynamics going on between New Jersey and New York. Who is going to legalize first? The East Coast is about to pop. Everybody knows it. Pennsylvania's that close. The other major issue is that it's not a legislative thing in New Jersey. It's a ballot initiative. So it'll be the people who will be voting on it, not a legislature. That's coming in November. And I was just reading an interesting article in Biz Daily today that was talking about how a lot of people are expecting that to be the spark that sets off the entire East Coast. Once New Jersey legalizes, New York is going to be right behind them. They're not going to let tax revenue flow. Pennsylvania on their border is also going to be right behind them. Their governor is relatively supportive. So this is, and, it's been a few years now. A lot of people thought this was going to happen in the East Coast 2 years ago. But there's been a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of back and forth in the legislature in New York, which does not also have ballot initiatives like Vermont. But it does look like now it got certified, it's on the ballot, and there's constantly polling in the 60 to 65% range in Jersey. So that's going to be something to look forward to this November. It's exciting as far as to see what's going to happen in that region, because once Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey go, Florida is going to be right behind. And once you have California, Florida, New York, I mean, the biggest states in the country all legalized, that's what a lot of people are saying may very well be the catalyst for federal legalization. Interestingly enough, I don't know if you happen to notice, but the current COVID aid bill that was just put forth by the Democrats contains the Safe Banking Act tucked in there as well, which does also have an enormous amount of support. Yeah, who knows? We could see that happen. And if that does, that's definitely an enormous step for the industry as a whole. Could start using banks, could start, more cash only, payroll services, credit cards, debit cards. I mean, that's the normalization of the industry. Nothing would do more in a short time period than that Safe Banking Act getting through.
Yep. No, we got to get that through. I mean, we saw that they're talking about pulling some things out of the bill. It looked like they were going to, but then they didn't, right? Is that true what I read? Because it was kind of like they were going to, then didn't, or did they do not going to?
The federal bill, or are we talking about the state bill?
The federal bill.
The federal bill. Yeah, I mean, that's in a constant flux of negotiation. God only knows if anything gets done in Washington. As we all saw last night, I don't think much. I'm pie in the sky thinking, I know, of anything getting done at the federal level, but just hearing that was included is kind of exciting for, the industry to think that it's a possibility, maybe.
Right.
It's been a very rough week. I'm a little disillusioned with government in general.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit, because I do have a conversation that I want to talk about. This became news, and this intrigued me because we talk about police services. We talk about what their rights are when they use cannabis, right? Now, in New York Police Department, right, a cop was forced to retire due to his medical cannabis registration, right? I don't know if you saw this article.
I did see that. I saw that somewhere. I'm like, oh.
Right. So he was retired from the department, right? He filed a first of its kind lawsuit against the city of New York on Wednesday last week, alleging that they discriminated against and harassed him because of his issue of doctor prescribed medical cannabis. I know, again, we talk about regulations and what laws constitute what, but does this officer have any legal ground to stand on? And if he does this open the door for a lot more cases like this?
Police officers are kind of put aside. That's a really hard question. It's a great question. But what's going to be found and determined for police officers would not be precedent for, the rest of us normal people, because it's considered a high risk position. It'd be like airline pilots, CDL holders right now. This is a tough one for me, because as a medical marijuana patient, I want to fight for this guy's rights. And we have taken on employment cases where dismissals for medical marijuana use is absolutely unacceptable because he's a cop. I can't find any sympathy. I want to know how many people he's arrested and locked up and lives he's ruined over pot. And now all of a sudden he's trying to I have not a lot of sympathy for that. But as a legal issue, it's a fascinating legal issue. It really, really is. And Colorado was the first Supreme Court to rule in on this matter. It was a case called Coates v. Dish Network, in which Dish Network fired a very highly rated customer service representative for smoking pot, and that was upheld to be okay. But then 2 years later, Connecticut had a very similar case in which the Connecticut Supreme Court ruled differently. It said, no, if you're a registered medical marijuana user who's using on your own time, and you're not high at work, and you can't, be shown to be using at work, but if you're using on your own time at home, that is insufficient grounds. And that actually was then duplicated in New Jersey with a very similar case in which also they ruled that if you're on your own time and you're at home, that's not grounds for dismissal.
What kind of follows the alcohol?
The law on that is actually getting much better. And we're seeing it. Still happens. It still happens a lot. And it requires, like Brian was saying, just because you've been aggrieved, not everybody has the money to hire a lawyer. Not everybody has the money, time, effort to be able to go through a lawsuit, which is an incredibly grueling, expensive, time-consuming, stressful process. I heard you talking about those depositions, Brian, and I was like, shuddering. One's bad enough having to go through all of those. My God. But some people just they can't do it. They can't do it financially. They can't do it mentally. They just can't, get through that process. And it's unfortunate because there's not a lot of recourse for people like that. They get fired and they'll just get fired.
He is absolutely true. He is absolutely true, because in 2010, I did not have the financial backing that I have now. And in 2010, I copped a charge in Arizona for marijuana. Okay. And they put me on interstate compact, transferred my probation over here to Las Vegas. Well, I got a lady a lady probation officer who absolutely was 110% against cannabis. Okay. So at that point in time, I was taking it to not have seizures. Okay. And this lady looked me in my face and she told me, hey, you can sit here and flop on the floor like a fish for all I care. You are not going to smoke cannabis on probation. So I went and got a doctor's prescription for Marinol. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I started taking Marinol and it worked. It took care of my seizures. She tested me and it came up positive for cannabis. And I showed her my prescription pill bottle. This lady ended up revoking my probation 5 different times. Now you have to go 45 days in jail for every revocation. And then Arizona was like, we're not going to come over there and pick him up for this little shit. So I would have to sit there 45 days, 45 days, 45 days, and continue. Finally, I got out, went and turned myself in Arizona, did a year just to get this bitch off my back, and came out with nothing. But that's what I had to do, man. That's what I had to do. And I was getting Marinol, it was prescribed by a doctor. And she's like, I didn't have the money to go and get a lawyer and take on the probation office.
Right. And it's a scary thought when you have to take on the probation office, taking your medicine. That was the one thing I was going to say about this again. I mean, it's medicine. So when we talk about alcohol, right? Like if we want to line it with the alcohol industry, like it's the same mentality. We don't care what you do when you're at home, go get drunk, but just don't be drunk on the job. People operate heavy machinery. They're alcoholics, right? My question is, why can't we be on the job? Because people take Tylenol, they take all these other drugs, they take their medications, they take opioids on the job because it's so a lot of this time it's their medication. They take Suboxone, they take methadone, right? These guys get pretty fucked up.
I'll tell you this, my employees here, I have no problem with them smoking whatsoever. They cannot smoke. If they want to go on lunch break and they want to go in their car and smoke, that's fine. I don't care. Yep. As long as it does not inhibit your job. And they also know, if they smoke and come in and chop their finger off, and my insurance has to handle that, they ain't gonna be smoking no more on lunch break. Nope.
Well, I mean, we all come. 3 of us come from the chef industry, right?
That's one of the things I ask in my interviews when I hire somebody, or when I would hire somebody. I'd be like, "All right, do you do drugs?" And they go, "What do you mean?" And that's when it gets kind of shady. And I'm like, "Nah, dude." I was like, "Do you smoke weed?" They go, "Yes." If a person says no, I really don't trust them. I'll be honest with you.
Right.
I really don't want you here.
Well, I mean, there's different levels of drugs we're talking about that are prevalent in the restaurant industry. But the funny thing is like when you look back and you talk to people about being stoned on the job, and the restaurant industry is a very demanding job, right? You got to be focused. You got to keep it a certain pace, especially when shit gets busy, right? Oh, yeah. And you have to listen and hear. Like there's a lot of functionality to that position, right? In my career, I won folders in the restaurant industry, right? I've been doing it since I was a kid. I've never really met a chef that never smoked weed. Like, 90% of the people on the line, if they didn't smoke weed, you'd be like, "Are you a cop?" You know what I mean? Like, it's weird in the restaurant industry because, like, it's just something that's prevalent. You do it, it's accepted, right? Most people, go take your break. You know what I mean? Shit's about to hit the fan, right? Yeah, I mean, it saves just a lot of that, like you said, stresses and calms people. I come from the music industry. It's the same thing. Tell me a band that doesn't smoke weed before they go on stage. You know what I mean? We smoke weed for the show. I mean, there's a lot of comedians. Joe Rogan says it a lot. You know what I mean? Like he before he even does his shows, he has to be stoned still because he gets anxiety. I've been doing this for years. I get anxiety. Absolutely. Every time before the radio show, I would get anxiety before a gig.
And here's the thing. Fake laughing with your customers is a fucking job skill. Add that shit to your resume. I don't even care what you say. Okay.
Right.
If you're not, I don't know how many times I went out to a table when they'll be like, "Yo, chef, this steak is too well done. I ordered medium." I'm like, "That's medium rare. That's a little under." And you're bitching about being over. If I'm not stoned to calm down, dude, come on. Like,
my employees ask me to be stoned before I come into work.
Oh yeah, it works
because
great.
Makes it a little easier to deal with.
Oh yeah, it. Like I said, whenever I hire somebody, if they want to smoke weed at lunch, that's perfectly fine because I really haven't experienced combative potheads. You know what I'm saying? If someone goes and smokes at lunch and I'm like, "Hey man, I need you to go and clean that refrigerator out," they're going to go clean the refrigerator out. They might eat a couple of things out of it, but it's going to be a clean refrigerator.
Yeah, exactly.
I really think it all just comes down to self-awareness, no matter what industry you're in. I think all of us except for Tim come from the restaurant industry. Or maybe have you worked in the restaurant too,
I was the lawyer, front of the house.
That'll work. Fuck it, that'll work.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as like just self-awareness, being aware of yourself and how much you can consume and still be able to function properly. If you can smoke a joint or smoke a blunt and go in and get your shit done on the line, or go in and get your shit done in a factory. It shouldn't matter what job you're doing as long as you are aware that you are still coherent and not intoxicated enough to not be able to do your job correct.
Basically,
It
just
helps me do my
understand
job.
the grand rule of mise en place, which literally translates into everything in its place. If you're gonna fucking go smoke a joint and skis in your mise, I'm gonna send you home. That's really what it comes down to. Not to mention, you show me a dishwasher or a prep person that isn't either drunk or high. Okay,
Yeah, right. That's what I'm
those jobs
saying.
cannot be done sober. I'll be honest
Yeah.
with you. You'll want to kill yourself.
And if they
within
are
2
done
days.
sober, they're usually throwing frying pans at the chef.
I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
there's
Personal
that too,
experience.
But usually issues.
I ain't gonna fly with that. I'll be honest with you. The first time you
I mean,
in my
cannabis
kitchen,
is definitely,
no,
yeah,
unless I know
cannabis has
what you're
definitely been
talking about.
prevalent in the restaurant industry, the music industry. I mean, we've seen it for years, guys. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we've talked about it for years. These guys have promoted it for years. Luckily, you know, we've been in these industries, and like nowadays with the big move to the hospitality arena of cannabis and what that has to offer, restaurants. We're starting to see more, you know, hospitality, like hotels, Airbnbs, places like this that are now having available cannabis like little ventures. We're starting to see weddings starting to happen. So obviously catering and stuff like that are campus related. Like Brian was talking about how he does dinners, you know what I mean, for the stars when they come in, and you know, privately catered dinners. I mean, this is something that's big, right? And it's big news, and it's in a big industry. And you know, it really is more about CBD. We talk about a lot of these cool things. We were talking about Delta 8 a couple weeks ago, right? We talk about terpenes. We talk about these really cool pairings. So like the whole industry, just like food, it's never going to come to an end because there's always going to be a new fad, a new flavor, a new thing coming out, whether it's sweet and spicy, hot, you know what I mean? You know, like Brian said, he's in the perfect industry. He's making, you know, spicy strawberry cheesecake wings. Like, I gotta try some. You know what I mean? I can only imagine. Yeah. Now, Brian, you have
when I'm
tons of
doing a dinner,
videos. You have tons of
yeah,
videos. Just want to let people know that you guys have tons of videos on your page. If you guys want to check out the videos, check out the sauces. Here's some reviews. He do a lot of work with the stars that come into the restaurant. And then there's one thing that we didn't even talk about that I want to get to here shortly, but it's the Magic Butter guy, right? Like you opened the first retail Magic Butter store in America, right? So that's a huge thing. We all love the Magic Butter machine. We all know, you know, we talk about it a lot. And as cultivators, growers, and people that, you know, obviously chefs, you know, this is something we do talk about. And what you and Chris have done there is amazing. So that's something else I want to touch on really quick. But yeah, let us know about that real quick.
okay, so let's see here. I've known Garen and Chris from Magical Butter for about 4 or 5 years. They sponsored me in the Top Cannabis Chef in the High Times competition a couple of years ago. And I would say about 2 years ago, they hit me up and wanted to do some content here in the restaurant. And I have a separate little area over here that really wasn't being utilized the way it should be. And, you know, me and Chris, we sit back smoking a little herb, and we're like, you know, hey, this would be a wonderful spot for a actual retail store. You know, it already has the theme. You know, people can come in, they can do exchanges if something's wrong. They can talk to an expert here. You know, all of my servers are experts on the Magical Butter machine because I have 100 sauces. So Magical Butter, when I first met them, they donated me like 25 or 35 Magical Butter machines. And so all of my sauces are processed through a Magical Butter machine. Now that doesn't mean that they're infused. I just take all the ingredients, I put them all in the Magical Butter machine, I close the lid, and I come back in an hour, and now you have, yes, now you have the consistency in the sauce. So because that makes it so much easier to do than, you know, having to do it manually. You put all the spices in there, you turn it on, come back in an hour. And having that many, we're able to do tons of sauces. So, you know, it only made sense for me to open up a magical butter retail store here, because it is an intricate part in what we do here. And it's a very intricate part in how I medicate, how I make my edibles, my oils, all of that. My biggest seller is I have a cannabis syrup. It comes in 5 different flavors. And I infuse the syrup. It's we have watermelon, black cherry, blue raspberry, strawberry, and I infuse the distillate mother liquor into these syrups. And I personally take one every night because I have insomnia really bad. And
What chef
so
doesn't, man? I'll be honest with you.
yeah, you know, anybody who has their own business, they're a dreamer. You know, they're a dreamer, and and that means your mind doesn't, a lot of times doesn't stop. It's hard to shut off at night, you know. So thank God. I swear to God, I wish to God I had cannabis to lean on when I was a kid, because I mean, I had bunk beds, and my mom would put us to bed. My brother, he'd be snoring in 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm staring at the popcorn ceiling for, you know, 4 or 5 hours before I could go to bed. You know, I just think, I truly believe, and that's something that they're going to have to study further in the future, but I truly believe as a child, I would have benefited from cannabis given to me in the right amounts, the right dosages. And I truly believe that, because, you know, if someone could have gave me 10 or 15 milligrams of THC as a kid, and I could have went to sleep and got up and slept well, there are so many things that would have been better in my life. You know, my parents were always on my ass about my grades, and I'm like, yo, I can't sleep at night. I can't, you know, oh, get the hell out of here. They don't want to hear that.
They
you
call
know,
it ADD or some shit.
yeah, you know. So I truly believe that there are benefits to cannabis for kids in the right setting.
Oh yeah.
No, I have to agree. As a kid with ADHD, yeah, man. Like I think a lot of these ADHD guys, they got Ritalin and all these different pharmaceuticals that really didn't, you know, help them for a minute, then they get used to it, and that's where that entranceway drug kind of happens, in my opinion, right? Just imagine how you would talk about us being kids if we had access to this. Imagine how many kids would have been raised differently if our parents even had access to it. I think that's where we're going to really realize our next generation, where we're starting to see alcoholism come down a huge step, right? And now people are medicating with cannabis. And I think it just strengthens communities, it strengthens families. There's a lot more love in that household now, due to the fact that these guys aren't, you know, arguing. They're not drunk. They're not trying to cover. I mean, even if it's an emotional pain or physical pain, you know, a lot of people, like we said earlier, you know, people use whiskey to cover a broken toe. Like, how the hell does that help your broken toe? It really doesn't go away, right?
It's just a mask. It's just a mask.
Right. So let's figure out a way that works for you. You know what I mean?
My 7-year-old, he goes to the #1 private school in Nevada. Okay. And he came home 2 years ago. He was 5. Oh, excuse me. I got a phone call from his school, and I'm like, oh my God, what did my 5-year-old do? You know?
Right.
And this guy's like, hey, my name is Mr. T, and I'm one of your son's teachers. And I was complaining about back pain, and your son came to me and was like, hey, my dad makes CBD products that would take away your back pain. So my 5-year-old's hustling CBD in his private school. Huh? Yeah, absolutely. You know, my kids, I have 2 kids, and they both, I have 4 kids, but 2 in the house, and they both.
Billy Mays? I mean, damn.
That's right. That's right. So they both know. They know all about THC. They know all about CBD, because it's all about education. It is, you know, people say, hey, you know, it's a gummy and kids might get a hold of it. I got gummies all around my house, and my kids don't touch
Fucking let
shit.
them. They're going to eat it and pass out. You'll be all right.
Well, if they did, I mean, you do make a good point. There's gummies around the house. I mean, my kid is very well exposed to it. I have this conversation with lots of people. Women in my life, friends, our family, right? And these are serious conversations, right? Where, how open are you around your kids? Does your child see you smoke? Yeah. Do they see you smoke cigarettes? Do they see you smoke? Do you see you drink alcohol? Do they see you take your pills, right? You know what I mean? To me, it's normalization. I don't think my kid is like you said. If you normalize around your kid, and you educate him about it. Like my kid calls out more people than I have to. It's great. You know what I mean? I don't have to say a word. He's just like, oh, it's not marijuana, it's cannabis, and he'll talk to people. He has a lot of respect for it because it's medicine to him. You know what I mean? So he sees people,
Absolutely.
he knows people are using it for medicine. So to him, it's medicine. I think he's one of those people that like when he gets older, he's going to have that decision and it's going to be his decision and he's going to make an educated decision on whether it's right for him or not. Like, and I don't have to push him that way. He's not going to feel pressured in any way. And I think at that party, which I always laugh, that's where, I think the biggest entrance drug was our parties, right? Everybody's drunk. The next thing you know, a joint gets handed to you. You don't know what the fuck it is. And someone's like, try it. And you're like, I'm at a party. Sure. Why not? You know what I mean? And that's where I think we get introduce this shit. And then I think the same thing with opioids. It just takes it a step further at a party doing the same drugs, because I don't think, to me, cannabis does not make me want to go shoot up heroin. You know what I mean? So I think that excuse as an entrance drug is kind of just doesn't work for me.
I mean, it's a gateway.
My four
into
kids,
healing.
My 4 kids have had to stand at my bedside while I was in a coma.
Yeah.
And and they look at cannabis, and let me tell you what, when you come out of a coma, your mind ain't right. Okay, I had some major issues when I first came out of the coma about me not being man enough to protect my kids, me holding my kids or driving with my kids or this that, and me being the reason they get hurt in some way because I have a seizure or something of that nature. And that definitely fucks with your manhood.
Oh,
but
yeah.
my children have seen the miracles of cannabis.
No, that's huge. I grew up with my mom having seizures. I had to watch them as a kid. We had to see it coming. As a kid, we knew. She knew. She had trigger signs, right? So we just got to sit there and watch it till an ambulance showed up. I mean, what if I
And
knew this
it's hell.
then? Right. And she's a nurse. She was in the medical field too. So she just got a plethora of the common drugs, right? Which didn't really help her much. So she was in that system. And until this day, I don't think she would even try cannabis, right? But like she's a perfect candidate for that. Like you said, who wants to see their parent sit there? It changes your perspective in every aspect to watch a parent go through that.
I think there's definitely going to be a lot of momentum over the next 15 to 20 years. A lot of these kids that are growing up now, their parents are being a lot more open with them than our parents were with us. I remember when I was 10 years old, I used to have massive migraines. And if my mom had the knowledge of, oh, he could have a little bit of cannabis, maybe a little edible, and it would help cure the migraine, she definitely would not have allowed the doctor to put me on Darvocet. I mean, who in their right mind puts a kid on something like that for migraines? It's ridiculous. So as soon as I became a medical patient, I was instantly open and honest with all 4 of my kids, to the point of where one day we were actually driving down the road. I was bringing one of my kids to school, and I pulled out some cologne and started spraying it on. And she said, "Dad, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm putting on cologne so I don't stink." And she goes, "Dad, are you really ashamed of how our family smells?" Because to her, in her mind, there was nothing wrong with me smelling like cannabis because it was my medicine. So she didn't care what her teacher had to say, what her principal had to say, whether or not one of them wanted to come up to the window and talk to me and then go, "Oh man, what the heck's going on with that guy?" No, instead she was like, "No, it's normal. Why are you worried about it?" And that's in 10, 15, 20 years, we're going to see a hell of a lot more of that, because these kids are going to grow up and they're going to be teaching their kids that there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And we're going to slowly watch this stigma just disappear. And I'm patiently waiting.
No, it's going to be great. That's why I think the next generation is really going to prove how positive this plant can be, especially in the drug war, especially in that stigma, especially in, the consumption and how we do it. You know what I mean? Like we said, we're trying to get regulated. We're trying to do things through markets. We're trying to do things legally. What's that going to do for the black market when our generation grows up? And it's just no different than going to get a pack of cigarettes or a drink or a specialty item at the store, right? You can just walk down the street and get it in your local bodega, right? Or your local drugstore, right? let's take a moment. We're getting pretty late in the show. We still haven't got to any of the segments yet. I want to make sure we get to the segments. Thomas, I want to get to your segment first, the Grower's Guide. We've talked a lot about some really important things the last couple segments, which have been great. Let's get a preview for this next segment. And if you have any more advice you just want to drop in from the last couple segments, I just want to tie up for people because it is harvest season right now. I've seen a lot of plants hanging. I've seen some beautiful plants. We talked about the bud rot. Let's just wrap it up real quick for everybody because we're at that.
Yeah,
we're here.
Yeah, so let's touch base on the bud rot and the harvesting first. A lot of people that are down in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island will be yelling at me, "Don't harvest yet. What are you doing telling your people to harvest?" Sorry, guys. In Vermont, it's time to harvest a lot of our plants. Some of them may still be able to go another couple of weeks, but most of them, if they aren't harvested now or soon, will be experiencing rot issues. Personally, I've seen a lot of rot issues over the last couple of weeks. Today, it was really, really wet out. We're going to get another chilly night tonight. It's not going to be super cold, but it's going to be cold enough and wet enough again tomorrow that these plants are going to have a chance to dry. So if you're not out there blowing them off with a leaf blower or covering up and treating them like a little baby, unfortunately, you're probably going to run into some issues. Actually, while we were having this conversation a little earlier, I had a client contact me and say, "Hey, I think I got some bud rot. What should I do?" Well, at this point, you're seeing some amber trichomes and stuff. Harvest the plant, save what you can, and hope that you can try better next year, or that we'll have a better end of the season next year.
Now, are you referring to bud rot? Are you saying like mildew in the bud? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, absolutely. To the point of where the bud itself actually turns to mold, and you will see visible mold growth. It will actually absorb the entire plant.
I learned a little trick on that, and if you will take the little straws, that you stir coffee with, and you'll stick them through the bud, it gives it air and allows that to, because moisture is your main combatant right there.
That is actually a great idea. You're 100% correct on the moisture being the main combatant. So I mean,
if you'll take those little straws and stick them through the bud, it aerates them. It does. They do it here in the dispensaries here at Polaris. Mm-hmm.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, I haven't seen anyone using that process before. So I mean, I'm always happy to learn and try something new. So I'll definitely give that one a try.
Yeah, and also one quick thing, right? The one quick thing I want to mention too is you don't need a blower. You can just go out and shake the plants. I mean, physically,
absolutely. Go out,
just get the water off
them. Shake.
Yep.
Right. See, that was the problem they were having, is it was misting and no one was shaking them. And so in order to combat that, they take those little coffee stirrers and they just jab them, crisscross them through the buds, and it aerates them completely.
Awesome.
That's awesome. That is actually
definitely
cool.
Something new to try. I definitely want to give that one a try. This week's segment. So this week's segment is actually on defoliation and cannabis smoothies. So we touch base a little bit on just basic defoliation to help increase your yield and penetrate the canopy a little bit better in the indoor grows. And then I show you how to turn some of the leaves that you've defoliated from your plant into a nice smoothie for breakfast.
All right. It sounds like a great segment. We're going to blow it up right now, and we're going to go to it right now, guys. So here is the Grower's Guide with Thomas Marcombe of Vermont Grow Coaching.
And for Rodney, roll that beautiful green footage.
Atta girl. There you go.
See, I knew you thought I was sexy.
You guys, come on, you guys.
Oh, you guys.
You guys. Here we go. Grower's Guide.
Hey, I think you're sexy.
No audio, Joe.
No audio?
No audio. Yeah, no audio.
Shoot. I see.
Okay, there is no audio though, right? Because I'm pretty high.
I don't hear anything.
Yeah, there's no audio.
Right,
There's supposed to be audio. You're supposed to be hearing my
Yep.
voice right now. Something's
Yep.
going wrong on the share.
Yep.
I apologize about the audio here on my end. That's awkward that we have to do this audio thing again. Let me see if we can fix that up so we can do that. We had it kind of lined up last time, so let me just do a quick audio setting check. So we're talking about leaf or bud smoothies. Now, smoothies are a great thing for this time of year. Let's just discuss that real quick, Thomas.
Yeah, so when it comes down to it, especially if you're growing organically, I don't recommend this with synthetic grows. I don't like the idea of having heavy metals and additional particulates in your leaves that you're going to be consuming into your body. But as long as you're growing organically, I like the idea of defoliating your plant throughout the season. When you defoliate the plant, you can actually take the fresh leaves, put them directly into a smoothie. So for me, I like to do about a cup of fresh fruit. Could be grapes, pineapple, mango, apples, bananas, whatever you like. Throw in a little bit of spinach or some kale if you want some additional vitamins and antioxidants in there. Throw in either a cup of orange juice, a cup of milk, or a cup of water, depending on your preference. And then anywhere between 10 and 20 cannabis leaves. They can be from a hemp plant, they can be from a THC plant. Normally, I do not decarb during this process. I will just allow the THCA and the CBDA to do their own work because I consume THC and CBD in other forms throughout the day. If you want to decarb, however, you can definitely do so beforehand and then still use those leaves. If you're going to decarb, though, I definitely suggest a steam decarb over a basic oven decarb because I don't really care for dried leaves in my smoothies.
And can't you, if you steam it, there's gonna be terps that come off that you can reuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I actually, if I'm going to steam and decarb the leaves, I'll actually use that water that I've steamed in and use that in the smoothie as opposed to using water or juice, so that I'm actually able to retain the terpenes and put them back in the smoothie as well.
That's actually a great tip. Let's try this again. See if we get the sound fixed. Let's go to the Growers Guide one more time. See if this works, guys.
Nope.
No audio, Joe. Still nothing.
Okay, I know what's going on with this audio thing. I can hear it, and usually everything's looking like we have audio. We'll figure that out, guys. If we hopefully Chef Rodney's, we can get audio to it. If we can't, we'll check it out on our YouTube page. We'll repost it onto our Facebook page right after the show. We'll make sure we get that right back on for you guys so you can check them out, because these are great segments, and we hate to not be able to bring them to you when we want to bring them to you. The last couple of weeks, again, bud rot and how to tell when to harvest your buds. I still think there's a lot of plants still up there that people are checking out for trichomes. If you're in the clear, just leave it alone, right? If you're starting to get into your cloudy or your amber, that's kind of like your decision. And what I do is recommend that you go check out Thomas's video on Vermont Grow Coaching in the Weeds, or you can go right to our YouTube page as well. And you guys can find the segments there. And then Thomas will walk you right through that. And it's a great segment to pay attention to. It's that time of year, man. We're starting to see people take a lot of stealing the plants, Thomas. Is there anything that we can do? I mean, I know, Timothy, we talk about this. We've seen some major crops get stolen, and what are the laws, and is there any help on that, and how do you proceed with that? And you and Andrew said, I saw a video that you guys have posted about it. Call the cops, right? Because it is as long as you're legal, especially with hemp, right? It's considered property, correct?
Only time you'll ever hear me say that. But yes, in this case, it is good advice.
Yeah. I mean, don't be afraid to, if you're, if it's hemp and if it's what we consider a legal crop and you're growing it correctly. I mean, if you have issues, call the cops. You guys have rights. I mean, it's legal property. Thomas, is there anything people can do moving plants around? Do you not want to move your plants around? Because I know some people are talking about bringing them in, bringing them out, moving them around. Is this something that can stunt the plant at this point?
So in reality, if you have a dark shed or something that you can put your plant into and lock the plant up at night, where it's going to be nice and dark at the same time that it's going to be dark outside, then you should be perfectly fine bringing it back out in the morning. In that aspect, that's definitely going to save you from getting it ripped during the night. Other options that I've discussed with people is just putting a putt tent out by your plants, or putting a camper out by your plants, so that it has the idea that you're actually out there, or the look that you're actually out there with your plants. There's definitely plenty of options as far as dog kennel cages and stuff for next year's grows, if you don't already have one, to help protect your plants. But in reality, the biggest advice I can give is keep your plants out of view. You know, they're going to be smelled. You know, people are going to smell them. They're going to be looking for them. So don't have them in view. Don't have them in your front yard. Don't have them in your side yard. Don't tell all your friends and buddies and the guy down at the gas station about how great your plants are doing, because the more people you tell, the higher the chance that somebody's going to steal your crop. Unfortunately, when it comes to Croptober, rip timber is a real thing too. So there's been a lot of people that have lost their crops. Another huge piece of advice: in the event that someone is coming after your crop, don't confront them on it. Call the police. You know, as Tim mentioned, I'll say again, in most cases, I won't say call the police either. But in this situation, call the police. Don't confront them yourselves. You don't know if they have a gun. You don't know if they have a knife, if they're going to try to harm you or your family. And in the end, even if it is your medicine, it's not worth ending up in the hospital over.
No, we just saw a big issue out west with a big supporter of the cannabis industry, Matt Gordon. So if you guys have ever heard the name, you guys know of Matt. He's a huge activist, a big supporter of our cannabis industry, who was recently attacked and knifed over cannabis. Got robbed. There's a GoFundMe. Yep. So if you guys want to check it out, and you guys can help out Matt in any which way that you can, you guys can find out more about the story. It's a pretty gruesome story, and we hate to hear things like this in the industry, because we like to think this is a positive, supportive family industry. Check out Matt Gordon. Oh, what do we got with Brian down there?
Your mic's off.
You're muted, Brian. Let's see if I can help you out with that one.
No. There you go. Yep.
There you go.
Oh, I'm just showing off my new Rokin here. It's you can actually pick any temperature you want right here.
Oh shit.
And
there you go.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
How do I get one of those?
I'll tell you what, I will send you one. Just text me your I'll send you one. Just text me your addresses and I'll send you one, because these things, I'll be honest with you, they hang around your neck. They're very discreet. They go right in your pocket or in your shirt. And I've washed mine. I've dried mine. It still works, you know. And when they first came out, they were like pin shapes and all kind of stuff. Pins break in your pocket and all that. This has a 180 second shut off. So even if you're smashing it in your pocket, it shuts off in like 180 seconds. So they're just a really top quality vape battery.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, awesome, man. Hell yeah, I'll send you. You know, it's cool because like I'll send you some. I have some deliciously dope face masks and a bunch of other fucking gear. I'll send you some shit too.
Well, I'll send all you guys some infused sauces.
Here we go. we gotta get down to Vegas, Brian, and do a couple shows down there. Sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, you're really living it up. You're enjoying the life. It's the chef's dream, right? Especially when it comes to the cannabis dream, right? A lot of people, you know, we're still not able to do this in every state. You know what I mean? So you really have a great thing going on. Hopefully we get all these states to realize what's going on and see what's going on down there, and it'll open it up for the rest of us, so we can actually have lounges. We can actually have consumption in an actual restaurant and watch consumption, right? Now, guys, we had a quick comment about the plants being stolen and how much that sucks. And you know, one of the questions was, you know, about the government, you know, basically burning weed that's over the 0.03%, right? Tim, maybe this is a legal question for you more than anything. Is there any other rights besides burning a crop that you can do with something that's above 0.3 THC?
What state are you in?
Yeah,
right?
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, what state are you in? According to the USDA and their new interim final rule, no. Vermont doesn't burn anything. But we're still operating under our 2014 pilot program. You know, they had a remediation component in our new hemp regs. They had to take it out in order to try to get into compliance with the USDA. So it varies state by state.
So again,
that's a sticky situation. because you can't, something with 10% THC, nobody wants that if they're trying to get stoned or anything like that, you know, so you can't hardly sell it away. And yeah, that's a sticky situation.
Right, especially when you're trying to meet regulations. We talk about that a lot and how difficult that is. And we have cultivators that come on, and they talk about that. It's not an easy number. You know, we talk about raising it at least to 1%, which is what, you know, we're kind of seeing that's being more accepted globally, I guess you could say. And you know, here in Vermont, that's what we have going on is the 1%, right? So which makes it a lot easier to stay within compliance. But the big question is, what happens when you fall out of compliance? What happens when you have a 40, 100, 1,000-acre farm, right? And you just went a touch bit hot. You know, we had last week we had Adam on, right? And he talked about how he went literally, what was it, guys? 0.3005 was his mark. So he was literally like 500 of a thousandths over the legal limit, and they had to watch him in mass. He has to burn his crop. You know what I mean? So what can you do with that? Do they not do the same thing? Do they not do the same things, say, in the alcohol industry and things of that nature?
No.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
no.
Yes.
I mean,
no.
if you make an alcohol that is supposed to be 90 proof and it comes out 98 proof.
Yeah. Do they make you dump it? No.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, do they make it into something else? You know, I mean, we've seen, especially with this epidemic. Well, that's what I'm saying. We've seen with this epidemic what the value is of different alcohols. You know what I mean, and levels of alcohols, and what these guys can actually do and make and proceed with, and what, like, again, you know, you raise an interesting question, but is that still a commodity that has a market to it that can be used for something like that? You know what I mean? That can be infused into something that can be turned into, like you said, a sauce or something like that can reduce that number. You know what I mean? I've talked to a couple different labs still that were interested in hot products, because through their processes they can make it within that legal limit. So on a test, it will still test out. And Thomas can even, I think, talk about that a little bit as well. What can we do, Thomas?
Absolutely. So last year I actually had a farm that did test hot on their product. They weren't very hot. They ended up being 1.2. So they were definitely a little bit over, but they contacted the state and they inquired, what are we supposed to do about it, et cetera? Can we do this with it? Can we do that with it? And the end response was, you can't sell it as flour because it's over the limit, but you can process it via CO2 oil or ethanol extraction or distillation, pretty much anything except hydrocarbon, because hydrocarbon is not currently legal for most hemp farmers to be using, especially in the state of Vermont. But as far as like CO2 extraction, ethanol extraction, that sort of thing, you can extract the full spectrum oils and then distill the THC and add back in all of the other cannabinoids so that you still have a nice broad spectrum product. And you can even add back a tiny bit of that THC if you want. So you still have full spectrum, but are within spec even for the USDA.
That's absolutely true.
Yep.
Now you are going to lose a percentage, in the distillation process.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
you're able to charge more money for a concentrate than a flower, so you should somewhat break even there.
Yep.
Yeah, and when it comes down to it, this farm in particular wouldn't have been able to sell their crop otherwise. So it was originally they wanted to do all trimmed flower, but when even their flower with trim leaf and everything on it was still coming in high, there was no way that they were going to be able to trim that and market it without running into some issues. Especially if they tried to go over state lines. So they opted for the oil production, and then they turned it into a combination of CBD oil for tinctures for sublingual underneath your tongue, and then also into vape cartridges.
Gentlemen, I truly appreciate
Yep.
So I'm going to but I really appreciate it. And please send me your addresses, how to get a hold of you, and get you some of these sauces and pumpkins and things. As I said, it was an honor.
No, man, it's an honor having you on. You've done some great things for this industry. It's your story is truly inspiring to a lot of people, especially from the medical community, the restaurant community, from everything, man. It's been a blessing. Have a great meeting, and we'll talk soon. I appreciate your time.
Nice to meet you, man.
Cheers.
Nice to meet you, Brian.
Nice to meet you, Brian.
Later.
All right, guys. So that was the Wing King, man. He's got a great restaurant in Las Vegas. He is known as a Ganj Father. He does have products, like you said, the syringe and stuff like that. You actually get it on the side of your meals, which is, to follow within legal compliance, right? So he's got a great thing, 100 different flavors of wings. I go crazy, right? And he's living in the city of Sin, right? So as we talk to him and we realize what he's talking about, laws and stuff, those aren't laws that apply to us now. You know what I mean? In most of these states. So don't get too excited, everybody, because we really can't go to a wing joint quite yet and get all these things. But that being said, check him out, the Ganj Father. The Wing King, and Brian Peace. He's a really cool guy. He's got a truly great story from everything that we've seen, heard, and what he's done in the industry. Again, lots of videos and stuff like that. So check him out. Too bad he had a duck. Now though, we'll wrap up the show. Hopefully we can get some sound on Rodney's clip, and we'll do the deliciously dope strain of the week. What do we got this week, Rodney? What do you? I heard you guys conspired on something here that I didn't even know nothing about until I saw the video, which I'm pretty stoked about, because I've too enjoyed what you have enjoyed. So I enjoy it very much.
It was damn good. Tom got a hold of some of that skunk number one. He sent me some of that. He's like, hey, let me know what you think about it. And I smoked a lot of it. It's gone. It's one of those things where it's delicious, man, and it's very rare that like you can get what you ask for basically out of the cannabis. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I went in having a little bit of knowledge, and it's every single thing that it promised me and said it was. That's to the point, man. It's an insane strain, and dude, again, Tom, I can't thank you enough, man. It was delicious, dude.
Well, that was a long drive, but I'm glad I made the trip.
Oh yeah, it's cold up here, isn't it?
It's not much different than Vermont, I suppose.
Right, that drive must have been fun, right? Well, here we go, guys. We're gonna do deliciously dope strain of the week. We'll wrap it up, and we'll be back next week. We have a great guest next week, Leo, who's going to be on. We're talking about New Jersey. He's a big, huge activist in New Jersey, so he's got a lot to say, and he's got great perspective on everything going on down there. So it's going to be a great show. Let's see if we can make this sound work. Hopefully I get the settings right. I unplugged my headphones. If it does, we'll switch back to Thomas's Grower's Guide right after this, and then we'll end the show, guys. Stay with us. Let's see if this works.
I'm Chef Rodney from Deliciously Dope, a journey into the world of culinary cannabis. And I've been a chef my entire life. Being raised by the kitchen, cannabis was something that I utilized in order to help me with the stress of a very demanding industry. Little did I know that there was something more to this amazing plant than just the entourage effect. So I've decided to travel the world in order to find out more about the medicinal benefits that we've overlooked before. So come along with me as I break it down and show you how to inhale the good shit and exhale the bad shit. This is Deliciously Dope Strain of the Week. What up, Canna fam? It's your boy, Chef Rodney from Deliciously Dope, bringing you Deliciously Dope Strain of the Week. This week, y'all, we have an insane fucking strain from our very own Vermont Grow Coach. Now, the strain this week is skunk number one. Tom, I'm telling you, boy, thanks for the hookup, man. This shit is insane. Now, skunk number one comes in at a 22% THC level at its highest point and an average of 15.5% THC at its lowest. The strain also comes from crossing Afghani and mixing up with local gold, making it the first stabilized hybrid in the Dutch cannabis world. The strain has also been notorious due to its potency. So now the term skunk is used to explain powerful ganja. Skunk number one is a 65% indica hybrid, which makes it good nighttime cannabis. Some typical effects reported on skunk number one were a relaxed feeling that didn't make the user go couch locked. So that explains some of the common usages for skunk number one, which include depression, anxiety, and insomnia. Pretty common, right? But as well as we all know in the cannabis world, there are always some downsides to our cannabis experience. The downsides of skunk number one were dry eyes and cotton mouth. Yep, totally sucks. That's going on right now. And it's the awesome Deliciously Dope mug, which, by the way, I will have pre-orders for this, y'all. So let me know. Hit me up. DeliciouslyDopeTV@gmail.com. We'll get you under $20. Now, I can't confirm these findings. Dry as the cotton muffin can, it sucks, guys. But what does she look like? Let's roll that beautiful green footage. 3, 2, 1. Some similar strains to skunk number 1 include, but aren't limited to, Cookie Monster, White Widow, and Sour Cook. But what does skunk number 1 taste like? Reportedly, earthy tones with a sour note that intertwines with the roots of light sweetness. Which brings me to the terps found in skunk number 1. Terpenes that give skunk number 1 its signature earthy citrusy smell are myrcene, linalool, humulene, and caryophyllene. Now, bear with me, I'm sure I'm saying those wrong, but you get the idea. The aroma can be almost overpowering and the smell lingers for quite a while after you smoke. So, without further ado, smoke some of this shit. Oh shit, yup. Earthy, yup. Okay, sorry. Citrusy, yup. Skunky, definitely. That sounds. That's good. That's good shit right there. That's good shit. Thomas, thank you very much, man. That's just fantastic. Again, guys, check out Vermont Bro Coach. It's amazing. Tom, you keep fucking doing what you're doing. It's kicking ass. So, oh man, that hits you good. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy that, man. Thomas, again, thank you, brother. Now, this has been Deliciously Dope Strain of the Week. I'm your boy, Chef Rodney. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Now I can say that's one of my favorite strains, which I'm glad you get to try. Now that we can put something out there. If you're out there and you're a listener, you're tuning in, and you're a grower, and you want to get your strain on Strain of the Week, reach out to Rodney. Let's see what we can do. If it qualifies, let's not say we're going to do everybody's strain, because you might just stuff that you don't want to show anybody. If it qualifies, you can get on there. Now, the cool thing about Thomas's strain here, right? The strain, the recognized seal of approval. He's also got a write-up in 13 folds coming out here shortly, right, Thomas?
Yeah. So I actually have a write-up on my GMB 77 strain review coming out from Missy Jean at 13 Folds, and then I also will have an article of my own discussing the freeze drying or cryo curing process in that article as well.
Now, GMB stands for Green Mountain Boys, right?
It does. Green Mountain Boys 1777. So Green Mountain Boys 1777 would be 1777, the year that Vermont invaded New York to take back their independence. So the lineage of Green Mountain Boys 77 comes from a cheese, a skunk, and a fruity sativa. The fruity sativa strain actually came from a good friend that I know in the Adirondack Mountains.
Nice. So
I crossed that with a cheese and a skunk that I already had crossed in Vermont, and it became a fantastic strain that I've just back crossed 4 times now, and we'll actually be releasing seeds for at the end of November.
I'm gonna have to get
seeds,
those, for sure.
Yeah, all the seeds will actually be free. So we'll be releasing 100 packs of seeds, and all you have to do to obtain the seeds is watch out for our Instagram or Facebook post towards the end of November, and give us a shout and let us know you're interested. First 100 packs will be sent out for free. After that, we'll be pushing off all sales until further notice.
Perfect. I'm doing that tonight. I want to get my hands on some of those. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Yeah, everybody can go right there, Vermont Grow Coach, and find out more information. I mean, these genetics are great. The flower is amazing. A lot of people have been really enjoying it lately. And I mean, and like Thomas said, he has a cryo system that he uses. You know what I mean? That he's been utilizing. We've had the cryo cure guys on. Rodney's good friends with those guys as well. Tracy and Those
Right.
guys are amazing people doing an amazing thing. Sadly enough, though, they don't have a home size unit, so it's hard to get that
Yeah.
price down to make it really conceivable yet, right? So they're all working on it. It's a great technology because, like, again, we talk about cannabinoids and terps and all that stuff. So all that stuff works. Now, guys, we're gonna end the show. We're running a little bit late. I'm gonna try redo Thomas's thing. Let me make sure I didn't close it out, and that way we get played again. Make sure you guys go to our YouTube page, which has all the archives, so you can find us there. It's really easy. There's no, just go like us, follow us, and that way, when that happens, you guys can stay close to us with everything you guys want to see. So
Yeah,
that
fucking
means all
stalk
the old
us. It's
shows,
fun.
all the old growers guides, all the old strains of the weeks, stuff like that. You'll be able to find there. We're gonna see if I can get this open and playing here, and we'll get the growers guide going here again. Does anybody have anything to say before we sign off here?
Play it again, Joey.
Play it again. That's what the
Who's
man
Joey?
says. We'll try to get that done. All right, guys, it's been a great week. We'll be back next week. We have a great guest. If you guys want to check it out, again, please go to our YouTube page, our Facebook page, where you can follow us and everything coming up. Check out Deliciously Dope. Go follow Vermont Grow Coaching. And as always, if you have legal issues, give our friend Timothy Fair a call at Vermont Campus Solutions. And guys, like we said, hopefully we get these bills passed. Hopefully we can come together on this. I know there's a lot of issues that people are complaining about. Let's complain to the board about it, the commission, when we get it going, right? Let's get the wheels rolling here, please. And let's not be a dead horse. Again, guys, know your local laws. We just talked about a lot of crazy things happening in crazy states where it's not quite legal everywhere. So I don't want to see everybody going out and trying to do things that we know we can't. Follow your laws. We talk about it all every week. And here we go. The Vermont Growers Guide with Vermont Grow Coaching. Thomas.
Still muted.
And leaf smoothies. Oh yeah, get excited. Vermont Grow Coaching recommends you defoliate on day 1 and day 14 of flower. You can also defoliate during your vegetative phase, depending on how long you'll be in veg. Remove 50 to 75% of fan leaves so that defoliation will increase bud production and allow better canopy penetration. Here we have a Durban poison. You can see we're removing roughly 50% of the fan leaves. This plant is not quite ready to be flowered yet, so it will vegetate for another couple of weeks, but the additional defoliation will help with penetration throughout the canopy and additional vegetative growth before the plant goes into flower. All right, let's make some smoothies. Leaf and bud smoothies are super easy to make. Add 1 cup of your favorite frozen fruit, 10 to 20 small fan leaves or 3 to 5 small buds, and 1 cup of orange juice, milk, or water. Blend until desired consistency and consume. You can see here we're adding in grapes, spinach, kale, mandarin oranges, pineapple, and last but not least, cannabis leaf. We're adding roughly 15 leaves into this batch here. And then we're going to pulsate it on high for about 45 seconds, give or take. We've chosen to use orange juice in this smoothie today. Now that we've made this to the proper consistency, it's time to pour, sip, and enjoy. It's a great start to the morning. Oops. Key tips to remember. Only use organic leaves and bud for your smoothies. Ensure your leaves and bud are mold and pesticide free. Decarb your leaves and bud if you wish to activate the cannabinoids. For a better all-around medicinal effect, decarb half of the material used. Thanks for tuning into Grower's Guide. If you have any questions or concerns regarding today's segment or would like to set up a consultation appointment, please reach out to us at vermontgrowcoach.com. You can also find us on Facebook or Instagram and contact us directly at 802-342-5381. And next week, we will be talking about how to properly drink a smoothie without getting it in your mustache.
Is that possible?
No, I really don't think it is. That's why I just said, oops, hey, oh well, I ended up sucking it off afterwards.
It's part of the charm, isn't it? Like part of the whole process. No, it's great. I can't wait for next week. It starts off October, guys. That's it. I mean, we got, here it comes. It's harvest season. Everybody's going full effect. Trim season. We're going to have harvest events. If you guys are tuned into this right now, we have an event going on this weekend in Vermont. If you want to come be a vendor, if you want to come be a part of it, if you want to come listen to it, it's live reggae. It's a harvest event at one of our local new growers operations. So if you guys want to check it out, it's indoors. PM me, PM Sada Sound, and figure out how you guys can get involved or just come hang out with us. It's my birthday party. We're going to celebrate. So join us this weekend if you can, if you're in Vermont. Please, Tim, please, Thomas. Hopefully we see you guys there. Rodney, if I could get you here, man, I would.
When is it? Hang on.
The 3rd, next Saturday. So hopefully
I'll
be
see what I no promises.
Give me the info, Joe.
Yeah.
Let me know when, how.
I went there last night for a walkthrough. I was really impressed. Some of the best CBD flower I've seen. Smoked it. I was really.
Where was this?
It's in the old Caledonia Spirits building up in
Northville area.
So the Mayhew family it's Mountain Mystic.
Elijah Mayhew. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I know who you're talking about. That's awesome, man.
So,
anyway,
it was nice. Anyway,
guys, Thomas,
dog's crying. I think his eyes are floating. You guys will talk very soon. Everybody hit me up this evening. I got lots to talk to you guys about. We'll be back next week with Leo Bridgewater, guys. I can't wait for next week's show. We're gonna get educated. It's gonna be a great show. Love you guys. Talk next week.
See you next week.